Good evening, chat. Hello. I hate how it makes it look like I have like a weird hair setup back there. Anyways, guys, welcome to the Thursday night show. I mean, what would it be if it's not a Thursday night? It'd be weird to call it that, but that is where we are, and that is what we're here to do. It is a Thursday night show, chat. Welcome, one and all. Welcome, one and all. My name is Sean, also known as Potentially Criminal. I am an attorney in the Cleveland, Ohio area, and tonight, I don't know. This is not going to be as jam packed, as action packed as like other shows. I mean, I know it keeps saying like this one will be quick. No, I think this one is going to be quick overall. This is not like a super huge show tonight, but I think it's kind of fitting because we just got done with a 36-day long slog through the Karen Reed saga, the second time around the sun for Karen Reed on this. And there's finally been some finality, and we're going to get to that. But I think it's a little fitting. We're probably going to slow down a little bit here too coming up, guys, just so you're aware. It's getting to be summertime. So I just want you guys to know that now, a little bit of a programming note. So like there might be some Fridays coming up, Saturdays coming up where you're not going to see me. It's getting nice out, 2.0, and I want to go spend some time. And, we're almost, it's the 19th of June. In like 2 weeks, we're the 4th of July. Fucking crazy. I know. That's like the halfway point of summer, roughly. It's also the best holiday of the year. So we will be probably kind of scaling some things back, just so you guys are aware, as we get to the Fridays and Saturdays. Doesn't mean that, doesn't mean we don't care about you. It's just we're trying to figure out how to maximize that for everybody. So just so you're aware about that, that's what we're looking at. Really just wanted you guys to be aware of that. And, if you don't like it, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to kind of have to suffer. So. I don't mean to say that, but it is what it is, chat. It is what it is. All right, let's see here. There's a bunch of. Let's see. I didn't see. Also, guys, happy Juneteenth today, which it is a holiday. I know a lot of you probably don't care because you don't get it off, but Juneteenth is a holiday, and guess what? The courts were closed, so I didn't have to do anything today. And Juneteenth is a holiday. It commemorates the final enforcement of the emancipation of slaves. And by that, the final enforcement would have been in Texas. And it took that long to get there. By that point, it just took a little while for news to travel. And by June 19th, that was it. And that's why they call it Juneteenth. I've heard the people claim, it's because they didn't know the day. No, they knew the day. It was, June, and it was the 19th, so they call it Juneteenth. It's what they call the celebration. So that is what happened today. So, I mean, like I said, I get a day out. Now, I don't get paid. But, hey, that's court holidays are, they're still days off. Still days off. So, let's see. What else you guys have here? Karen, we're going to get to those. We are going to get to some of those pictures here. Let me see here. You guys are... did we get to the storm okay last night? Yeah, we were we were on I just rolled through. It wasn't too bad by the time it got to us. The wind wasn't that bad. I mean, stuff wasn't blowing all over the neighborhood. People had garbage cans out last night and they were still standing where they were. So I know it was really bad. Like it was going to be like 80-mile-an-hour winds, and then it's like nothing. Like the winds were not that bad when they got to us. So it's on the plus side. On the plus side. What the heck? Whatever. I can see some strings right there. Anyway, that's where we are. But I appreciate you asking, DK. Would you let Karen drive your car, though? Well, we will see about that. You saw me gaming today, fat man. Hope you enjoyed your mandatory bullshit holiday. Yeah, well, I was doing a little bit. Yes, now you get Ethan Klein going after all the other all the other bread tubers. Yes. And guys, that's going to be a separate video because like Ethan Klein's 2 lawsuits. He's suing Denims, Frogan, and Caseytron for copyright infringement. And they're actually pretty significant lawsuits. Like it's going to require his own show. And I feel like I was going to save tomorrow for the Supreme Court stuff, the Ohio case involving discrimination, and then the Scrimetti decision where Tennessee is allowed to have its ban on gender-affirming care. I was going to save those for tomorrow night and then kind of figure out from there. But the Ethan Klein one's going to take a little while to read through because it's all there. Let me see. What else are you guys saying? Alex Jones says, "No, Sean, you belong to us. We'll never let the globalists take you." Thank you. Yes, summer solstice is this weekend. And yes, am I going to go outside and touch grass? Try to. Kurt from Uncivil Law. Guys, great friend of the channel, Kurt. He's been absolutely crushing it in his Karen Reed coverage. I mean, like, massive. Got, like, I think he said, like, 3,000 subs over the course of his trial. Broke 150K this past week. Guys, Kurt is out there. If you guys want some good coverage, I know he covered some Supreme Court stuff today and some other things like that. Give him a check over at Uncivil Law. Kurt does great stuff out there. So good to see you, Kurt. Hope you're doing well, man. Hope you're doing well. Let's see here. Try and catch up really quick on chat. Some of you guys are wondering why we're kind of waiting. Well, we try to give people like 10 minutes to get in here because YouTube is not always the fastest on letting people in or notifying people. Do black people only get Juneteenth off? No. No, they do not. Angela says, I got today off and we get tomorrow off since the holiday falls on a Thursday. Hey, that's if that's what you got, man, well, that's a getting. Well, the getting's good. That's good. That's very nice. Yes, it was only for Southern slaves. Yes, the slaves in Kentucky and Delaware were not officially freed until 1860, till the ratification of the 13th Amendment, because they were in the Union, and somehow that was different. A little weird, yeah. You're like, yeah, you're only emancipated if your state was in rebellion. So, Jordan says, "Did you own many slaves in those times, Sean?" I did not, but parts of my family, I don't know if it's clear they did or not. Wouldn't surprise me. Yes, it did not apply to Maryland, did not apply to states that were not in rebellion. Did I see Ayatollah Khomeini may have been killed? Yeah, I've heard that. Things are getting spicy in Iran today. So, is the Mr. Steel Toe gonna go to jail? We're gonna get to that. I don't know. I mean, I will say though, you got to be careful. Nick's racked up 1 L. I mean, he's racked up 1 dub, and just like in Major League, well, you get 1, 2 is now 2 in a row, and 3 is called a winning streak. And it's like they have happened before. I mean, Nick's got 1. He got 1 dub finally. It's like that means he's now ready to get a 2nd dub. So, got to be careful though. Got to be careful. We are going to take a look at it, and we're going to see what happened, and kind of go from there. So, all right, chat. So I guess we'll start off with the first and biggest thing here. We will start off with the biggest and bestest thing. Karen Reed, chat. Let's get... Oh, actually, hold on. We got... Bifrons is a new member. Thank you, Bifrons, for re-upping. I appreciate that. Thank you for doing that. And hold on here. Why did my panel thing not work? Oh, there it is. The dash bar thing for my camera does not always work. So, Bifrons is back at misdemeanor. Thank you. I appreciate that support. Rosedower is now felon. And guys, if you guys are members, we do the members only stuff. And one of the things I put out there for the lifers, that's kind of like the top tier membership. They got the studio tour, and now because it's been out for a while now, they've had it out for a fair little bit of time. It's kind of an exclusive for them. Is my way of showing thanks for appreciating their support and everything. You guys get to see where the magic happens. You get to see behind the screen. You get to see what I see and do what I do. And that's been made available. And I put this out so people could see it. And hold on, where the heck? Yeah. I was gonna edit this down so everybody now, all channel members do have access to it. So as of today, you guys should have access to it. If you want to see the 2025 studio tour, you guys can do that. So please take advantage of that option. And then where's Rosedower? Rosedower here, yes. Whiskey 77 for $9.99 says, Mr. I own my own practice. Can't even give himself a paid holiday. Yeah, I know. What a douchebag for a boss. I know that's the interesting thing. Every morning I wake up and tell my boss to go fuck himself. And they still don't fire me. I guess I'm very important here or something. I don't know. I can show up late and call off whenever I want and they don't do anything at all. These member videos are entirely F1 and diecast. Jim says, you released a video while streaming? No. No, I did not. I did not do a video while I was streaming. So, is it my own body cam tour? Kind of. Oh, kind of. All right, guys. So, yeah, I heard Sean's sleeping with the boss's wife. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, Jim said, I just got the notification. Well, I just made sure it switched over. So, you guys got it. All right. So, guys, Karen Reed. It's over. No more Karen Reed. I'm sure many of you are Karen Reed it out. I mean, it's been a slog. It has been a slog and a half, but, it's done. It is finally done. Karen Reed's second trial is over, and this time there's some finality to it. Karen Reed got multiple acquittals, and remember, chat, she had 3 separate charges she was facing. So what she faced was 1 count of murder in the second degree, 1 count of manslaughter, and then from there, she was also charged with leaving the scene of an accident where an OBI death was caused. And along with that, for count 2, there were a bunch of lesser and included offenses. So what happened there? Well, this is, and I have a copy of the, they released a copy of the original slip of the original count 2, because count 2 included multiple lesser and included offenses. And if you guys didn't understand that, Karen and her team actually asked for the lesser included offenses. A lot of people were concerned about that because it's like, well, why would you risk all this and risk getting convicted of lower things? Well, it's because you can't be sure. Now, for Karen, this was they did amend this because the jury got a little confused. But she also, so remember, operating manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor. You might go, well, she could have had beer. It's like, no, that's not how that works. So the first checkbox is not guilty of everything. And I will say, I give the judge credit. Not guilty is put at the top. Sometimes you have to fight for that. Sometimes you have to fight to make this the first thing. And you always make it the first box. Why? Because people are always inclined psychologically. Remember, I told you guys, there are facts in the law, and you can pound on those all day long. But you're also in the psychology of people. People, you give them the first option to check. A lot of times they'll check it. So you take advantage of that. So she also had a lesser included offense of So there was the manslaughter while operating the vehicle under influence. So that was the first one. Then there was the lesser, involuntary manslaughter. There was a lesser, motor vehicle homicide, basically felony, getting a felony DUI. DUI where you hurt somebody. Okay. Then there was finally another thing, lesser and included, of operating a vehicle under the influence of liquor, also known as DUI or OVI, OUI, whatever you want to call it. That was the final option. That was the final option, chat. And what happened? Well, the jury went through, and guess what they decided Karen Read was guilty of? Count 5. They convicted Karen Read of just regular OVI. Oh, yeah, chat. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. They convicted Karen Read of just bog standard DUI. And you're like, wait, what? And you're like, no, yeah, they really did. They really, really only did convict her of that. And you're like, how does that work? And you're like, well, it does. It does. It does. That's how it worked. And you're just like, how did you get to there? Well, ultimately, one of the jurors actually got interviewed by TMZ, and we're gonna look at that. But also Jess Machado, she's been one of the local reporters covering things, spoke with one of them. Just the government's case was garbage, and they saw right through it. They saw right through it. And the best way, I'd like to say, I just think this is fun, and I think we need to cover this real quick because it is hilarious what happened. I think it deserves to be just pointed out here. This is from the Coke meltdown that I put together, but this is pretty good here, guys. Just wanted to say this out there. Souls are retarded. They will probably convict of only count 3. I think it would, like I said, remember, guys, May 3rd, we had just started the trial. That chat, I thought it would be absolutely hilarious if for some reason they were able just to convict her of OVI, not even OVI where there's leaving the scene where a death occurred, just regular, just operating a vehicle under the influence, just an OVI DUI situation, just a regular DUI. That would make my day if that happened, because that would be hilarious. It'd just be like the ultimate, because that would be even more embarrassing that not only did you not prove all this, we just only thought she was drinking and driving. That would be hilarioso. There you go. We're not going to play the rest of it. You'll have to go watch it if you want to, chat. But yes, it's very embarrassing because they lost on everything except for when Karen admitted she had been drinking. So yes, Hank Brennan introducing all of Karen Read's statements, they were helpful. They were helpful, but only to get to a DUI charge. Only to get to a DUI charge. And you're just like, all that work and all that effort just to get a DUI. And I said this at the beginning of this trial, guys. You had heard me say it before. This is a DUI trial. This is a case about DUI. It's a DUI with, obviously there's a little more complexity to it than that. Somebody's dead, but ultimately it's DUI. Oh, yes, millions. Yes, closer to $10 million probably total has been spent on this DUI case on both sides of it. Karen Read has easily spent close to $5 million on this case. And then the Commonwealth has spent millions prosecuting it. Remember, twice now. Two 30-day trials, you guys. That's a lot. That's a lot of things. That's a lot of time and money. It's a lot of time and money. It's no joke. It is no joke what happened here. But we do have some interaction of things. But first of all, if you guys have not seen it, we do need to go through the verdict because the verdict is important. And I think it's critical so you guys can see what happened. If you didn't happen to see it, it's good. It's good. And I think you guys need to understand the jury was out for 20 hours of deliberation. That doesn't count the time they went to bed, they woke up and came. No. Time they spent actually deliberating. So remember, they started Friday afternoon for a short bit, whole weekend, Monday, then went home. Tuesday, went home. Came in Wednesday, and it wasn't until Wednesday afternoon they came up with a verdict. So 20 hours of deliberation. That's actually a lot, you guys. That's a lot of deliberation time. Now, that said, though, do you think 20 hours is long? Yes, but I've also had 20-minute verdicts before. So, Mike says, how come they only pulled the jury on count 1? I don't really understand how that all worked out, but they did it how they did it. But anyways, here is the verdict, and here's how the verdict went, you guys. You guys have not seen it.
Standing. Defendant remains standing. All other parties may be seated.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that 12 deliberating jurors and 6 alternates are present.
Yes.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman, members of the jury, have you agreed upon a verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. May I see the papers? Mr. Foreman, have the verdicts been placed in this envelope and have they been in your presence ever since?
Now, if you guys were not aware, there has been a camera that's been staring right at Karen Reed and her team. And Court TV and Long Crime have been using it. So you actually get to see Karen's face because, remember, this courtroom is so small. This is the courtroom that they use. This is the only way it worked.
Mr. Foreman, on docket number 2282CR117001, murder in the second degree, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you? No. Do you agree?
Yes.
Do all of you agree?
Yes.
Thank you. 002, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
Of.
Is not guilty or guilty about that charge or any lesser included charge? Thank you. Specifically, number 5, operating under the influence of liquor by operating a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. Correct?
Yes.
So say you, Mr. Foreman?
Guilty.
So say you all?
Right there, he's telling her, Alan Jackson is telling Karen, we did it. You got this. And you should. They haven't found that you've committed a collision. There was no collision. You were just drunk that night.
Yes.
003, what say you? Is the defendant at the bar leaving the scene after accident resulting in death? Is the defendant not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
So say you all? Jurors, hearken your verdict as the court records that you upon your oath say the defendant on 001 is not guilty.
And from here, you can hear the crowd, and the crowd goes wild, chat. There were it looked like at least 1,000 people outside, minimum. And they went ahead and everybody lost their minds. And I think rightly so. It was very important what happened. And how they did stuff. I know a lot of people are upset that they went ahead and asked for this and they inserted themselves thinking, well, maybe the jury would have just discounted it. And you know what? That's a very fair argument, but here's the big deal. If you're Karen Reed, are you willing to gamble on that? Because if they convict you of manslaughter, you're going away for like 20 years. You're going away for a while. Not 20, but you're going away for a while. Whereas you can risk the OVI and probation or a little bit of jail time. Like you hedge your bets because everybody thinks they've got a great, everybody thinks it's a great idea to bet on something until you have to push your own chips into the middle of the table. And that is a massive thing here. And anybody can shoot dice with someone else's money. That is anybody else can shoot dice with someone else's money. But when it's yours, it's a little different. So, but anyways, let's keep going here. Let's see how the rest of this shakes out for Karen.
002 is guilty of operating under the influence of liquor, and 003 not guilty. Thank you.
All right, jurors, everybody please be seated. Jurors, we thank you for your service. We're going to send you back. Your service is complete. I'd like to come back and talk to you for a little bit afterwards. So thank you very much.
All rise. Jurors, follow me.
And you guys can see David Yannetti, he is crying. And I said this last night, the release of this for somebody like David Yannetti's been there from the start. He was the first guy Karen recalled. You know, that is important there. You know, the amount of, you know, the joy and the pain. You know, like it's all of that's coming out at once like that. It's something, you know, even when it's smaller cases, you can get emotional with your client. But these guys, you know, Yannetti and Karen Reed have been through thick and thin for 3.5 years, through 2 grueling trials. Remember, we talked about this before. Regular murder trials in America, maybe 3 days, maybe a week. These were multiple trials that went over 30 days each. We thought it'd be quicker. Remember, we thought, oh wow, Hank's flying through this. This is going to be a quicker trial. It took 36 days with the jury doing 4 days of verdicts and deliberations. So it's a 32-day long trial. The first one was just as long. So, you know, that's why I think it's something that you guys need to understand. This is something that, you know, Karen's been carrying the burden unlike anybody else, and that's true. But all these guys on that team, Alessi, Jackson, Yannetti, they all know Karen's innocent. And it's fucking destroying them too. Absolutely gutting them. It's been rough. It's just something to think about. We can watch a little bit more of this real quick if you guys want to see the hugs and everything, but Bob Alessi, like I said last night, Bob Alessi's like, I'm not really much of a hugger, Karen, but okay. But no, you can see her shaking. Like, she just danced with death. She could have been locked in a box for the rest of her life. She took it to the limit and won. Like, that's gonna scare anybody. I think it's hold on. I think it's Euripides, or is it Aeschylus? Whoever wrote Alcestis, I think it was. No, it wasn't Alcestis. But I think it is Euripides. Even the boldest seek to flee when death offers their hand. And that's true. It's true. So, yeah, all the nerves are leaving your body. All the nerves are leaving your body. Would I hug Karen if she tried to hug me? Yeah, if I was on her team, if I'd been on that team for, you know, that long, sure. Does she even hug Yannetti? She hugged him first. Her and Jackson, and then Yannetti. So, so that was, I mean, guys, this was a big deal. This was a big deal. There were some funnier parts of this real quick to get to the side pieces of it. This is Court TV. Somebody showed this is how Court TV had hashtag Court TV read verdict. It's like, well, no shit. I hope you'd read the verdict. That is kind of funny there. And then also Court TV real quick. They did consider Karen. They did mark her down as guilty of manslaughter. Initially, they had to fix it. But yeah, that was pretty good. And also, if you guys, we didn't get to see it in this view of it, but look who was there sitting there, Turtle Boy. Sitting there right in the background. And I thought it was very fitting. Without Turtle Boy, nobody would have heard of this case. He was very critical to Karen's, PR efforts. I mean, without Turtle Boy, I wouldn't have given a shit about this case. I don't think LawTube would have. So he made it important. He made it a thing. So, I mean, a lot of this goes out. A lot of the success ultimately goes to him. A lot of this goes to him. I mean, all these people you can see down here, all that goes to Turtle Boy, like raising the awareness and all of that. Then there's John DePetro, who, for the amount of people who were sucking government boot on this one, was just truly impressive. And I thought their copes were so delicious yesterday. That's why I made that video. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. I think it's very, very, very good. So let me see. I guess I'm just trying to make sure I got. Oh, hold on. Where did I see one? So that is kind of ultimately where we end up with Karen Reed there. Now, there have been some interesting things that have come out since then. And one of them, whoa. Well, actually, we need to go through some of the reactions of people. So today, some reporters ran into Karen and Alan Jackson down at Seaport. I think that's in downtown Boston. I think because it's called Seaport. But anyways, here's a reporter who kind of has jerked around Karen from the start. But it's interesting to see her reactions now.
You don't have to rush. Can you just tell us what your plans are going forward after yesterday?
I didn't even know I'd be here today, so I had no plans.
Will you go back to teaching, do you think? I mean, what do you want to do?
I don't know if I can. I miss it, though. I miss the students, and I love doing it. So,
how'd you sleep last night? Can I just ask you, 2 years ago, I asked you if you did it, and you said, no, you didn't. We all know.
What you said to me 2 years ago was, are you saying you were framed, Karen? You were the first journalist to ask me that, and it was prescient. So,
right. And you said you didn't do it. You said, but we all know who did it. So would you be comfortable with saying who you think did it now?
I'm worried about libel, but we all know, Steve. We all know.
Can you give us just your own insight? I mean, you're a free woman now. You're not bound by anything.
Oh, no. As long as Michael Morrissey's in power, no.
You got to give it up. You got to give it up. Sorry.
Sorry, guys. Hold on. We'll share the screen, chat. I got you. We're sharing the screen. We'll share the screen. There you go. Screen will be shared. Chat. Sharing the screen. So here you go. You're going to watch it again.
You don't have to rush. Can you just tell us what your plans are going forward after yesterday?
I didn't even know I'd be here today, so I had no plans.
Will you go back to teaching, do you think? I mean, what do you want to do?
I don't know if I can. I miss it, though. I miss the students, and I love doing it. So,
how'd you sleep last night? Can I just ask you, 2 years ago, I asked you if you did it, and you said, no, you didn't. We all know.
What you said to me 2 years ago was, are you saying you were framed, Karen? You were the first journalist to ask me that, and it was prescient. So,
right. And you said you didn't do it. You said, but we all know who did it. So would you be comfortable with saying who you think did it now?
I'm worried about libel, but we all know, Steve. We all know.
Can you give us just your own insight? I mean, you're a free woman now. You're not bound by anything.
Oh, no. As long as Michael Morrissey's in power, no.
You got to give it up. You got to give it up. Sorry.
We never give it up. Alan, everyone last night, at least.
So there you go. That happened. And then this is right as they're leaving the courthouse here. Alan Jackson gets to give a statement. And
Alan, how do you feel? I feel like $1 million. I feel like an innocent woman was just exonerated, and
he probably feels like $1 million because he needs to get paid $1 million.
vindicated.
What was this moment like when that jury came out and gave you that verdict?
It was the greatest moment I've ever had as a professional. It was the greatest moment of Karen's life. It was one of the best moments in my life.
I'm sure it was the best moment of Karen's life because she could have gone to prison. Like, duh.
What is your message to all the supporters out here?
Freed Karen Reed. Freed Karen Reed.
Still in a dream.
No, I don't. Alan, how do you feel?
So yes, I guys, I'm aware this time around he was pro bono, but the first time around, they made their money. And yes, for somebody like Ellen Jackson, these guys were in this one because they knew she was wrongfully being accused. Now, there was an interview. TMZ did interview one of the jurors, and it is interesting they get to there about this, and we're gonna have to bounce around on this so TMZ doesn't crap their pants over us going through it. But we will go through some of the stuff here, and it's very interesting. The one thing the jurors focused on, and we're gonna get to that here. It's actually very, very interesting.
The jury found Karen Reed not guilty on murder and manslaughter. Was it because they had reasonable doubt or because they thought she was innocent?
So I think for the jurors, there's a mix of some people think that she was definitely innocent, and the other people, there was a lot of reasonable doubt, at least to where we didn't want to convict her.
That's really interesting. So could you give me a breakdown there? Roughly what percentage of the jury felt she was innocent?
I mean, I can only speak for myself. I think that she was innocent. It's hard to tell exactly what people think deep down. There was a lot of things thrown at us, evidence. So it's hard to tell what truly.
So you say in your head she was innocent. Does that mean you think she was framed by people inside that house?
It doesn't necessarily.
So it's interesting what they talk about there and how that is. He's just pointing out like the case is so crappy. Kind of didn't really have much of an alternative. So it's a very interesting thing here. Remember, guys, as I mentioned this before, we are in a situation where we have the entire lore written down in our heads. We know all of it front to back to front. But they don't. Remember, the lore they get is highly curated, and is curated through the rules of evidence, motions in limine, and judicial rulings. So they only know a very little bit of this.
Really mean that. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to John. Really, I was only presented a limited scope of what happened at the night, and I could only base my opinion off of the evidence that was shown in the courtroom. So I don't really know if there was a cover-up or not. I know that's the big conspiracy about it, but I don't really know. All I know is that there was a lot of holes in the investigation. Whether they were deliberate holes or not deliberate holes, it's kind of hard from me sitting back to know that, what actually happened.
So what?
And that's the thing. The police, sloppy police work, jurors hate that. I mentioned it before, guys. Jurors hate sloppy police work because, like, how are we supposed to trust you? And once again, intentional or not, everybody else, when we go to our jobs, you're not allowed to be a slop ass. You have to get your work done. You got to do it right. And people like to make sure, like, people would like to see the cops be professionals about things.
What was the feeling of the jury? Because Alan Jackson and the other lawyers raised the issue that she was framed by cops and that they would have turned that house upside down if they really wanted to do an honest investigation, and that he was not hit by a car. He was attacked in that house, bitten by a dog, and then put outside to frame her. Did people on the jury, or some of them, buy that argument?
I think some of them bought that argument. It's just hard to tell, though, because whether or not we think that there was malicious intent, we were only presented with the facts that they didn't go into the house. So, there's an example of reasonable doubt. So, like, there's other examples of reasonable doubt. So even if you want to completely buy into the theory or not, that wasn't what we were tasked with. We were tasked with convicting, or deciding on this person's fate based on the proof and the evidence that the Commonwealth was able to present. And there was a lot of holes in the investigation.
Yet you went many
So there you go. I mean, they are bringing up the critical points of why didn't they go in the house? And this is all that stuff that happened. You're like, these jurors are based. These jurors were 100% about this action. They were all about that action, boss, to quote the great Marshawn Lynch. They were all about this. And they were like, wait, why didn't the cops go inside? Some of this don't make sense. And it is a great time. Harvey Levin, he's from where he is to where he is now. Ooh.
Any steps beyond that, because you say, in your view, she was innocent. What compels you?
Notice he's actually saying innocent or not guilty. It's not clear if he really means not guilty only, or if he thinks she truly didn't do it at all.
You to think that?
Well, one thing that I think that compels me is we did a lot of review of the tapes, and it seemed to me that the videos that we could see from the car after the alleged incident happened, that when we could see the taillight, it was lit up red where it shouldn't just have been red. So that leaves to me a conclusion of, well, how come it's red in this video after the alleged, collision happened, and then it's not, it doesn't have any red pieces where it should be red.
So another.
And there you go, chat. I mean, this is where I have to tell you, chat. You guys were like, all about the timelines, the timelines. I told you the timelines don't matter. The timelines never mattered. The timelines don't ultimately matter is, did she hit him or did she not hit him? Not did the phone work past a certain point, just did the physics of the situation actually work out. And if you guys don't know what he's talking about here, we do have it. And what they're talking about is the part where Karen runs into John's car and rear ends it while she's taking off. And this is the part they're talking about here. This piece right here. This is,
collision, and then as she,
we don't need to hear it, but this is Karen backing out to go find John in the morning. This is her backing into John's car. And notice the jurors are already noticing, hey, look, there's a bunch of red light by the rear end on that side. That's a side she allegedly had. She's already hit John and killed him. And watch what happens as you go. Notice it's all, and look, as you can see, it's red. It's still red. Remember, Hank tried to freeze that on the spot where there were snowflakes in the view. It's still red. It's still red. It's still red. And look, it's all the way red now. It's not white. It's not white. So, yeah, it's very, very red. And this is in the morning. This is around 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning when Karen can't find John. So there you go, guys. That's yeah. So even the jurors smelled a rat. Even the jurors smelled a rat. Then there is Jess Machado. She's one of the reporters up in the area with Turtle Boy, up in the Boston area, and she did an interview with juror number 11, and I don't think this is the same juror, because it's Paula Prado. So I'm assuming it's a different person because I doubt that guy identifies as Paula. So it's interesting. In this part here, I really thought it was important. This initial thing, and I'm not going to go through all the justice stuff. You guys should read it. But this is something you guys need to understand. Remember when I tell you all the time, jury trials are sales. You are selling something. It's about what you can package, how you present it, how you present yourself. This juror said right at the beginning, I thought Karen's demeanor was very suspicious. It felt like she was hiding something. Her confidence gave off an impression of arrogance. And she said, over time, though, I realized I was looking at a woman who had already lost so much. The fact she was able to remain calm and composed and actively involved is something I admired. So she won that juror over. But remember, this juror said at the beginning, I thought she was an asshole. And guys, yes, I understand they're separate people. I was making a joke that he could identify his name Paula. So, now, she said, I was initially inclined to find her guilty of manslaughter, but as we saw more and more holes, I believe she was less responsible. And for the past 3 weeks, chat, the past 3 weeks. So not even, think about that. Hank hadn't even finished the case and she's already like, fuck it. Hank lost already. This woman had decided Hank had lost already. It's like, wow. And then finally, the last thing here we're going to get to. Did you feel the judge was biased? And it's not necessarily favored, but she noticed a lot more of "I'll allow it" being said right after objections from the defense. And she said, I understand that certain things can't get introduced. And they try to get into something by asking questions that'll be objected to, though. They point out, though, Dr. Russell, for example, was hard to follow due to the constant objections from the prosecutor. So they didn't, they smelled a rat. These people smelled a rat the whole time. They smelled a rat. They smelled a rat. And then I will say, this is probably the craziest thing. Turtle Boy put this up today. If you guys have not seen this, this is fucked up, man. This is, Turtle Boy says, this is the inside garage at 34 Fairview Road. I've never seen this picture. If you guys have seen this before, woo, buddy. This is a whoa, buddy moment. This is from the inside of the garage at 34 Fairview Road. So, yeah. Posted tonight by Turtle Boy at 9 o'clock. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this before. If you guys have never seen that before, I've never seen this, and this is wow. Yeah, it looks like some kind of sealer. But no, guys, blood would not stain like that for years and years on end. But isn't it kind of interesting how that all works out like that? So, yeah, it's a weird spot for a bunch of paint to go. And guys, yes, it's maroon stain. But isn't that kind of a weird spot to have a bunch of paint spilled everywhere? Isn't that kind of weird? Like, would you spill paint to cover up blood? You might. It looks a little weird, doesn't it? It's just a little, like, get your noggin jogging. Turtle Boy is saying they think it was a wood ledge tonight on his show. I can see that, but yeah, it's like, oh wow, they'd smear a bunch of paint over some blood and cover it up. Because then you kind of ruin what happens. Oh, wow. I know, chat. It is an odd placement. It's a very odd placement. Oh, that's suspicious. And remember, guys, this is in a house. Remember, this picture is taken in a house where everybody threw their phone away. Everybody switched out their phones. By golly, that was just a coincidence. Remember that. People got rid of their phones. It didn't make any, like, we normally do that. There's nothing wrong with that. And then other people were at the house. Oh, I take my phone and throw it away on army bases all the time. Totally normal. Oh. So, Mike says, why is there a ledge just next to a wall like that? That's just, I don't know, the way they constructed it. Oh, not every builder's good at what they do. So, so yeah. So there you go. That's the Karen Reed saga, chat. That is Karen Reed in a nutshell at this point. Karen Reed is done. She's free. There are some civil cases, but I can't imagine those getting too far at the end of the day. Because while Karen does, the OVI can be used to show she was convicted of OVI, you still have to establish preponderance of the evidence that John was hit by her car. And what are you going to do? Bring in the aperture guys again after they shit the bed? Because all their prior testimony that was sworn in under oath can be used against them. So I don't think this is going to be a slam dunk for the O'Queefs going forward. As Phil says down here very correctly, hashtag Safa. There are easier ways to clean that shit. There are, but you know what? You're stuck with what you got, man. And you know, you're not dealing with the smartest people in the world, people who are drunk and panicking. So, hey, it could happen. It could happen. Ag says, why are lawyer interviews cringe? Because it's what we are. We are cringe. LCW Archives is a big fan of the trial, I see. Yes. Skyhopper T16 Media saying her defense team was awesome. Absolutely top notch. Top notch. I mean, that's up there with like OJ and what they did. Creed M says Julie Grant is in shambles. Yes. All of Hank's ball lickers. You know, it's funny because they're all women, so it's like they're all Hank's hoes. All of Hank's hoes are very upset. Does Turtle Boy have a trial coming up? Yes. Turtle Boy still has his witness intimidation trial coming up. That's still going. That case is still pending. He did have his case regarding the violation of protection order, which he won. But yes, his witness intimidation stuff is coming up. And that'll be kind of the next thing to moving on to cover. Because really, you know, he was First Amendment protected activity, chat. Like I said, do I think he did it the most intelligent way? No. But did he break the law? Nope. So let's see here. Mike says Edward Norton is Turtle Boy in 3 years. I don't think that would work that way there, but MLS David, how you doing? He says, I only started looking at this case after Turtle Boy is criminally charged. I understand. David said, I am so mean to Brandon Lesko. I mean, no, I'm not. I drank a lot of beer last night for Brandon. Cyanide Colo says Sean nailed the call. Did the Babe Ruth call? Yes, I called my shot, chat. I was like pointing it out, and I'm like, that's where I'm going. My hand was not like this. It was like this. I called my shot. Big difference. Alex Jones says, I had a DUI evaluation yesterday. No joke. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Hope you get through that in one piece. Creed M for €5. Thank you very much. Says, John DePetro did a written interview with a very based alternate that deleted it because it wrecked the state. The screenshots are under your stream tweet. Oh, really? We're going to take a look at these real quick then. I kind of want to see these. Let me see. Okay, yeah, here we go. So, this is John DePetro. He's kind of one of the douchebag journalists who basically ran around being anti-Turtle Boy was his thing. But yes, thank you, Creed. The screenshots are under my stream here. Well, so we'll take a look at these real quick. So this is from an alternate juror. So I would have voted not guilty on all charges except maybe the DUI. I think she was drunk, but that's it. And they say Hank was very focused. They say he definitely, but at times Hank came across as rude as just saying, over here. Remember, jurors don't like it when you're a big fucking asshole, guys. Jurors don't like it when you're a big asshole. And they say doing it to witnesses way over the line, and the thing with the holes in the back in the hoodie, that really hurt his credibility. Now, I do like this. How was the blue paint? I thought it was a joke. I couldn't believe a forensic expert would do something so silly. All it demonstrated was if you intentionally put your bare skin against wet paint, the paint will transfer to your skin. I don't know how anyone could think that was a smart thing for the prosecutor. What was wrong with the case? Well, Hank kept portraying Karen Reed's statements as an admission, but that doesn't add up. If Karen admitted to killing a cop, why didn't any of the cops on scene arrest her, or even detain her, or put it in the reports? There's an officer down, there's a woman yelling her admissions for emergency responders to hear, but by coincidence, not a single cop heard it or thought to write it down. That's odd. No explanation for the injuries. No medical doctors would say a car was involved. If he was on the lawn from 12 to 6, where was the frostbite? The state just ignored this. Says, I'm not a true crime guy. I don't know about other murder trials. Maybe you do, John. Is it normal for the state to charge someone with murder when their own medical examiners can't/won't call it a homicide? Is it normal for the state not to call the main detective? And he says, is it normal for both those things to happen in a murder trial? No. That's massive doubt. They say, what did the defense do well? Dealing with Trooper Buchanan, he was so defensive. Why is he being so defensive? Why are these witnesses so evasive? Jurors realize you're full of shit after a while. The scientists from ARCA were convincing, and when they were cross-examined, they didn't get defensive or snippy, contrasting with the prosecution witnesses. Brian Lawren, Lucky, the snowplow driver, I said in the first trial, the most honest man in the city of Canton, was the most convincing for me. And he says, I've shoveled more driveways than I care to remember. If there was a body laying an inch or two of snow just off the road, there's no way the plow driver would miss it. Unless the plow guy was drunk or skipped his route. And they said, who were bad witnesses? Jen McCabe. Things didn't make sense, especially when she forgot who she called when the feds were there. Carrie Roberts kind of admitted to lying at the grand jury. She said she didn't do it on purpose, but it still made me wonder, why is the state calling someone who lied at the grand jury? Kelly Dever, the Boston cop. She didn't want to answer anything. It's kind of funny in hindsight. But it made me think, why is a policewoman so reluctant to say whether or not there were cameras at her police station? You're like, it's impressive. These jurors were fucking sharp as a whip, guys. And these guys were, they were just on it. They were just on it. So, and he says, how much did the clips mean to you? He's like, the police didn't do anything with their contemporaneous statements that morning. So, I don't know. They didn't care. It says, how do you think John died? I don't know. But what I do know is the state could not back up their theory. For heck's sake, even Hank said something like, we don't know what happened, but we have a good idea. I wrote that down on time and thought, yikes, we have a good idea? The state needs more than a good idea to convict for murder, right? If he had been drilled by the car, he should have had more injuries. If he just clipped and stumbled, then he wouldn't have fallen hard enough to crack his head open. They never reconciled that for me. They seemed just to leave it open, like maybe it was a combo of those strikes, and then there's marks on his arm. To me, it's unlikely that you could get such parallel lines in the chaos of a shattered taillight. But most of all, how could there be no trace evidence of John on any of the pieces? Oh, God, these guys are good. These guys are good. Dozens of taillight pieces scratch and gouge skin, yet not a single piece had any human material on it. More doubt. Honestly, it would have been more believable if they said Karen got out of her car with a hammer and attacked John. The claw parts of the hammer could have made those arm marks, and the ball could have cracked his skull. I've never seen this before. This is great. What about the Lexus backing up? I wasn't sure what to give weight to that. There was no definitive time linked to it because of conflicting theories of drift. Speaking of drift, Mr. Burgess' graduation day drifted quite a bit. Man, that was tough to watch. Oh, oh no. Hank Bros, I don't feel so good. Cell phone temperature for John's phone. The state essentially said maybe it was under his shoulder outside all night. The defense said maybe it was in a garage from 12:30 to 5. Competing maybes equals doubt. They got this right. They get a check mark. That is correct. Competing maybes equal doubt. If the prosecutor is saying maybe period, though, that's doubt. Hank said she backed him up and hit him and left him. Why was he wrong? There's no evidence of a collision. No medical doctor said the injuries were consistent with a strike. Yes, Hank said she hit him okay, but Hank's statements aren't evidence. Wow. These guys were good. Most jurors aren't this sophisticated, chat. You can't take what either side's lawyers say at face value. They say, what'd you think of Dr. Wolf, the brain surgeon? Super accomplished, very slick. Made me think of the Rat Pack cavorting in Miami. Didn't help prove a collision, though. Ooh. Wow. 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 Thank you guys for saving that. And I need to give props to Roger. He found these for me. Yeah. So thank you for tagging me in on that. Woo, buddy. Woo, buddy. They didn't even give him the fucking time of day. Ainsley Hayes says, y'all notice that Rekieta hasn't even been on to talk about the Karen Reed verdict. Way to be invested. Well, I mean, I don't know. Emergency piano recitals, wait for no man. Project Calm for $5 says, was Brennan's reputation hit by both the loss, but mostly by the two serious Neil trial-ending errors he made unforced? Losing isn't going to hurt Hank's reputation in the community, in the legal community. I will say this much, though. The way he acted in this would hurt his reputation because now it looks like he fucking lies. Now he's a liar. He put forward a bullshit case. He lied about the hoodie. He went up there and immediately was shitting on a witness he himself was using. I mean, yeah, Hank, his demeanor in court, the way he acted towards witnesses. Like I said, Chad, if I had a pretrial with Hank and we were coming up at a pretrial for whatever it is, and I sit down across the table at Hank in a conference room, we're talking about a case, I'm assuming he's lying about everything. Like, I can't trust a goddamn word he says. Like, it's one thing of like, when I go up against an attorney and we're in the bar association and we see each other at the bar association dinner, it's like, hey man, how you doing? Yeah, hey. Or, like, hey, we see each other in court the next day. Hey, the hearing yesterday, man, that got intense, but hey, good job. We'll see each other around. I've done that before. Like, you guys you'll come up to each other and say, hey, look, great job yesterday. May the best man win, whatever. There's no way I could see with Hank that at this point. I think Hank's probably ruined his reputation quite a bit. But I do think Hank, I think some people are correct. Hank may be looking for political aspirations at this point. Because who cares if people don't like you if you become the DA? It doesn't matter at that point. It doesn't matter. So, but yes, if you guys do want to see what happened there's more to cover going forward. Sean hugs opposing counsel. No, I do not. Yeah, Edward Scott, I agree. Hank wasn't trying to throw a case. If Hank didn't want to do the case, he could have said, no, I don't want to do it. There's other ways he could have tanked the case without going this hard. He could have made it easier for a jury to convict or to acquit right away. He could have also done but either way, tanking a case like that is not something you would do as an attorney. If Hank thought the case is bullshit, he would have said, sorry, I'm not doing it. But he didn't. So obviously Hank thought there was something there. Yes, he suborned perjury, the x-rays. Yep. All that. All that was really bad. All that was really, really bad. David said, Sean ignores my super chats because they're blue. No, I didn't. I saw your super chat. Unless you did another one. Hold on. Is YouTube fucking around with me again? Because I just covered your... Yeah, I already did your thing. David? I said, I'm so mean to Lesko. I covered this. Also, Creed M, I saw, it looks like you are from Slovakia. So, I think that's what it is. The flag is that I can see in the emoji. So thank you. Thank you. I hope you guys are, it's getting late out there. Thank you for sticking around. Let's see here. What else is there? David saying, Shawnee knows my super chats because they are blue. Yet I saw that one. Curious. How do you become the DA if people don't like you, though? Well, it's Massachusetts. It's pretty corrupt. So I'm sure whoever they want to get in will get in. Remember, Fannie Willis is still the DA in Fulton County. Why? Because she wants to be the DA in Fulton County. So. Stealing Jackson's closing from the first trial was shitty. Well, yeah, but you know what? That imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Hank had nothing, and he had to copy Jackson's first iteration. And remember, at the end of the day, Jackson didn't bring it home on the first trial. So I don't know what, if I was Hank, I would not use a closing argument from a trial where the side was not able to get the dub. That's not a good idea to me. That's not a good idea to me. But if you're gonna copy someone's work, you copy the person who got an A, not the person who got like a C. So, did Hank say Hank fell off right towards the end? Something was up. Are you talking about Hank? I mean, I think at some point Hank realized he was fucked. I don't know exactly when, but I think he realized he had a problem. Summonable Trap says, what if my opposing counsel is a bologna sandwich? Well, hey, you know what? When a good bologna sandwich is standing there across from you, you devour them. Devour them, literally and metaphorically. Let's see here. Brad says, Sean, say a prayer for Farron. She's likely okay, but broken. Yeah, I saw that. Farron was like at a C collar and everything. I don't know what happened to her. Hope she's okay. Broken rib. Yeah, well, she looked like she had a lot more than that. She looked like a car crash or something. So I hope Farron is okay and she mends up. You guys remember Farron Balance from the Johnny Depp days? Something happened to her. We don't really know. Or at least I don't know. So, hold on. David was busy watching the WNBA when I read the super chat. Is that Croatia? Is it Croatia or Slovakia? It's Croatia. Croatia. I am so sorry, Creed. My bad. It's a Croatian flag. I couldn't see it too well. Wait, Croatia's Slovakia's is up in the corner, not in the middle. Aperture's rebranded. They are now called the Blue Man Group. They are going to be really hurting going forward. But remember, guys, Aperture, they're paid whores. And there's going to be some attorney, some insurance company, some prosecutor out there who's willing to pay for them to come in and be whores. So they will always have business. This really did hurt their credibility, though. And I feel bad for the guys at that company who probably aren't hacks. Like, there's a lot of guys who work for that company who are engineers and scientists. They're now tied to these retards. Like, that's got to be the worst part of all. Those are the people who truly suffered. Those are the innocent casualties here. Creed M says, for another €5, thank you, by the way, he says, how do you think the AUSAs are talking about Hank for fucking with their contractors and implying they broke a court order and conspired with the defense? Oh, for the U.S. Attorney's Office, it's like, yeah, piss on that turd. Fuck Hank. They're probably just sitting there saying, fuck you, Hank. I mean, they're you know, the AUSAs generally, they play, I'm betting in that place like that, they probably play hard and fast anyway. So somebody like Hank ain't gonna hurt their feelings, but they just know Hank's a big bitch. So they'll just keep that in mind. Matt D says, at least Lally could convince some people she was guilty. Yeah, that's true. Garrett says, you would agree, Sean, facts do matter. Yes, facts and law matter, and they're critical. But you have to present. You have to have strategy. You have to understand what you're going to do. Just having facts and law is not good enough. It's not good enough. You need to have everything. Need to have everything. But anyways, thank you, Creed, again. I appreciate it. Okay, where are we at here? I'm trying to catch up, guys. I only take hug sandwiches. I'm okay. It was 2 weeks ago. Hank saw you lost a jury. I think so. If the ARCA guy sealed it up, Hank was broken then. Well, no, Dr. Wolf didn't do a good, like, Dr. Wolf did okay, but Hank really beat him up. Dr. Lapasato and Dr. Rentschler. Remember I told you guys, Karen needed home runs. They needed some home run hitters. Dr. Lapasato and Dr. Rentschler scored home runs. You know, they're like that guy in the game. They're like the guy in the baseball game who hits a solo homer, 2-run, 3-run, and a grand slam, and all in one game. You know, they hit the cycle, but for home runs. They absolutely devastated Hank. And they were both able just to hang. But Hank threw everything he could at him. And they just bobbed and weaved and rope-a-doped Hank and let him smash himself against the rocks. Those two brought Karen home. Those two people are why Karen Reed definitely is not convicted, I think. But we're even hearing from the jury, though, Hank was already losing before he was done. Hank was already starting to lose. And that's bad when you're a prosecutor. It's like you lost before you even finished. That really has to hurt pride. That would really hurt pride if it happened that way. So. You ruined our poggers. How dare you? Meme Copium says the Rekieta note strikes again. Guys, yes, Josh. Meme Copium, a great friend of the show as well. Doing great things out there, doing coverage in the mornings. I don't know if Josh can have something tomorrow morning. It's Friday. If he does, I can join him because I just got some video stuff tomorrow, so can be there if he's doing it. And also, guys, I will be probably, well, I don't know. I think I'll be joining Eric Hunley for Laid Back Law because now that Karen Reed's over, we can actually do it. Let's see here. Hashoof says, can we get a re for the anti-Karen Reed people? Yes. 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 Let's see here. Oh, fair. Oh, she said she was on a scooter going 17 and got run off the road by a car and hit the pavement. Oof, that's not fun. 17 miles an hour is good enough to severely injure yourself. So that's definitely enough to hurt yourself. Farron was on the Sonichu scooter. Oh no. Oh no. Creed M is saying Lally knew that clarity is a weakness in his case, so he muddied the shit up. No, I don't think so. I think Lally didn't muddy it. Lally did what's called like a prebuttal, where he preemptively answered questions that the defense was going to have. And Lally understood his problems, and Lally went out of his way to address them the best he could. Do I think he can maybe done it differently? Sure. But overall, I mean, like Lally, like in hindsight, yeah, I'll give Lally credit. Hank is, I think, a far better trial attorney, but I think Lally, I mean, at this point now, looking at hindsight, yeah, Lally's presentation was more effective because one jury almost convicted. So I don't think he muddied it up. He just tried to get in front of problems. But they still, both Hank and Lally refused to address things completely when they knew shit was going to come up. And they let the defense bring it up. The first jury must have been sub 60 or sub 80 IQ. No, I don't think so. I mean, the first case was very confusing. Even the defense didn't do a great job because they were limited in what they could do and what they had access to. Remember, they had only got cleared to talk to Arca like right before trial started. So they had no chance to really talk to Rentschler and Wolf. They had no time to prepare. So a lot of that case was by the seat of the pants. So let's see here. JD Buck says Dr. Lol Pizza Dough and Dr. Wrenchmaster best Hank like a Sunday morning boner. Yes. That's a shame, says the Pablo of backyard baseball, if you will. Oh my God. Hold on here. Wow, you guys are doing things here. No, I do not want a Sonichu medallion. Do not send me one. If you send me a Sonichu medallion, I'm going to send you a package that's ticking. Do not send me a Sonichu medallion. So please do not. So, and remember, yes, it took Buchanan 3 years to write a report. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, he did. All right, guys. So that is Karen Reed. Karen Reed is all done. We'll see what happens to Turtle Boy. Once again, guys, hope Turtle Boy gets acquitted. He did nothing wrong here, but we'll see. We'll see. Moving on, chat. Moving on to other things that have happened here. Turtle Boy, or not Turtle Boy, TikTok. TikTok, remember, there was a ban on TikTok that was passed by Congress. And now we are to the enforcement of that ban, and that's through executive action. And what has happened now? Well, Trump has now, for the third time, postponed enforcement of it, extending the deadline again. Now, I think it gave him one 90-day proviso, and now he just keeps extending it. Now, at this point, he doesn't have the legal authority to do it. But it is very interesting that on the left, they're just leaving this alone and they aren't getting involved. And, of all the things you go to court to force Trump to do something, you could try here. So he's extending it another 90 days, and it's the third time it's happened. The popular app has been illegal for companies to support or host online since January 19th. But Trump has granted extensions saying he has a deal in the works. And the biggest problem is there needs to be the foreign ownership in TikTok is a problem. So that is the issue. And as they said many times, Trump doesn't want it to go dark. And it's part of the U.S.-China trade tensions, which, as much as I'd like to say Trump's trying to do something good with the tariffs and the trade talks, he kind of sucks at it. But hey, the U.S. is got raped hard over the coals regardless in trade the past 35 years. So how much worse can it get? We'll find out. And Trump did sign executive orders because it does require executive order. And it's so funny that we're at the whitehouse.gov and they're talking about fucking TikTok. That is the funniest part of this at all. And it's not just Trump, but if this was Biden or Kamala, that they're having to talk about TikTok as a presidential decree in the Declaration. So he talks about by the authority vested in him, and talking through the application of protecting Americans from foreign adversary-controlled Applications Act, and he's applying that to TikTok. It's extended by Executive Order 14258 of April 4th, 2025. Extending the delay is further extended until September 17th. During this period, the DOJ shall take no action to enforce the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversaries Controlled Applications Act, the Act, or impose any penalties against anyone, including for distributing, maintaining, or updating of any foreign adversary-controlled applications as defined in the Act. Even after the expiration of the above specified period, the DOJ shall not take any action to enforce the Act or impose any penalties against any entity for conduct that occurred during the above specified period or any period prior to the issuance of this order, including the period of time from January 19th until the date of this order. So he's saying the DOJ can't go after people who are supporting and making it available to be downloaded, and that they can't after this timeline passes. Does not mean you have the authority to do that either. This is an actual prohibition on them from doing something. So if the DOJ were to prosecute someone, Trump could, or I'm sorry, the defendants could. If so, for example, if you had a an app store and you had it there and the DOJ tried to sue you, you could say, look, the head of the executive branch said you can't do it. They can't do it then. Like that's literally how this works. So, but he's ordering the attorney general to do something. Issue a letter to each provider stating there has been no violation of the statute. There is no liability for any conduct that occurred during the period, as well as any conduct while this is going. And they say because of the national security interest and the stake of the act, the authority for investigations and enforcement of the act only an attorney general. Attempted enforcement by the states, and this is where like blue states he's worried about, like could California do something, or private parties, so people trying to file lawsuits and get injunctions, represents an encroachment on the powers of the executive. The attorney general shall exercise all authority to preserve and defend the exclusive authority here. And this just goes on. He talks about nothing will impair the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency, the functions of the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, regarding to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. This order shall be implemented consistent with the applicable law. Well, I don't think it's actually legal to do this. I think he only had the 190-day extension. So, yeah. And I think it's funny Trump is worried about, like, well, I'm extending all of this, and in the meantime, Trump is doing the Trump phone, and it's like, when you want the Mossad to listen in on you, that's the best part of all. When you want Gabe Hoffman to be listening to what you do, and you're like, I don't know about that, man. I really don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want that. And this is where you guys can see it here. The new way, the Trump Mobile is an actual thing. A new way to wireless here. Join Trump Mobile today and get more from your wireless service. Yes, because I really want the Mossad and Shin Bet to like exclusively just go to their servers. I mean, yes, I know the NSA is cooperating with them and GCHQ is already cooperating with them, and there's Five Eyes. But I don't really want to I'm not going to give the Mossad a free line into my world. Like, they've got to go beg the NSA for it, at least. So they say this order does not create any right, benefit, substantive, or procedural, enforceable law, or inequity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, or officers. And the cost of this publication shall be borne by the Department of Justice. So there you go. I know I got bad news for you. The Mossad's already reading it. I understand, but I don't want to give them a direct line. Like, why do that? Why do that? So this is going on. Like I said, I don't think Trump has the authority to do it. When we read through it the first time and went to the Supreme Court arguments on it, I don't think he can legally do this the way he did it. But that's just me. That's just me, chat. That's just me. What do I know? I'm just a simple man from Ohio. I don't really know what I'm doing. Missouri Battle Flags, you're full of crap. You love the Jews and the monkey. I mean, that's what you got from listening to me. I don't know what to tell you. Hope you're doing well out there. The Newsome ruling just came out. It did? Katie says, hi, Mossad. Okay, look, Mossad has a name. His name's Gabe Hoffman. So if you're going to say anything, hi, Gabe. Okay, let me see here. Let me see here. Let me see if that came out because I want to see it. Newsome. Let's see if there's any. Okay, yes, it did come out. Okay. Where's the link for this? So it looks like the Ninth Circuit shot down at least temporarily. Oh, come on, where's the link to this? It's 38 pages. So Trump remains in control while it's pending appeal. So here we go. So here we go. I'll just open up the parts here. Let's see. I'm trying to find a good copy, chat. Hold on. All right, guys, hold on. I'm trying to. Okay. All right, here. This is some good stuff. There's 38 pages. I'll cover it later, but we will focus on some of this right here because it's breaking news, chat. So this is the Gavin Newsom versus Trump calling up the National Guard case. And this was challenged under not only Title 10 of the United States Code, and that's where if you guys know people are in the Guard, they talk about Title 10 orders when you've been federalized. That's what they're talking about there, Title 10, 12406. And this is where Newsom sued Trump and Hegseth. Well, there is a discussion here, and they say that immediately, because Gavin Newsom got his TRO immediately in San Francisco, and they say immediately they appealed the TRO and they issued a stay. We now grant the stay. The defendants have made the required strong showing they are likely to succeed on the merits of their appeal. Remember, chat, those are the elements when you're showing why you get an injunction. You're likely to win. That's the biggest one. Are you likely to win? Is there going to be irreparable harm? And what's the public interest and equity? Those are like the three things when the government's involved. And they're saying basically this all goes in Trump's favor, so we are granting the stay. They say we disagree with the primary argument the president's decision to federalize the Guard is completely insulated from judicial review. And I agree. Nothing is outside of judicial review, but they're pointing out we are going to give the president wide deference on commander-in-chief issues. They say, nonetheless, we're persuaded under longstanding precedent interpreting the statutory predecessor to 12406. Our review of that decision must be highly deferential. Affording the president that deference, we conclude is likely the president lawfully exercised statutory authority under 12406.3, which authorizes federalization of the National Guard when the president is unable to, with the regular forces, execute the laws of the United States. Now, remember, chat, we watched this, and I told you I didn't think they were going to get that. I didn't think the court was going to agree, but apparently they will. I'm honestly surprised. I'm very surprised that happened this way, but such is life. Such is life. Additionally, the Secretary of Defense's transmittal of the order to the Adjutant General of the California National Guard. And guys, remember, your Adjutant General is the head of your National Guard in your state. So there's an Adjutant General here in Ohio. Every state has one. Who is authorized under California law to issue all orders in the name of the governor likely satisfied the procedural requirement that federalization orders be transmitted to the governor through the governor. That is chat. That is through the governor. And even if there were a procedural violation, that would not justify the scope of the relief provided by the TRO. And that was something the Trump administration brought up, saying, look, if we're supposed to go tell Gavin and he has to have it personally, guess what? We could turn around and say, hey, Gavin Newsom, can we have the National Guard? And Gavin Newsom's going to go, fuck you. And then you know what Trump does? Okay, we're doing it anyway. So it was a simple fix. Our conclusion is likely the president's orders federalizing the Guard was authorized. It also resolves the 10th Amendment claim because the parties agree the 10th Amendment claim runs on the statutory claim. We conclude the other state factors, irreparable harm to the defendants, injury to plaintiffs, and the public interest weigh in the defendant's favor. Thus, we grant the motion for a stay pending appeal. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. Sean.exe has stopped responding. What happened? So, yeah. I mean, this is 4 of 38. We'll go through this later, chat. I just wanted to let you guys know this is kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal. Basically, the Ninth Circuit saying, yeah, we're probably going to uphold this. And now remember, there's a lot of deference given to Article 2 powers. And we've seen that more and more as these cases have gotten to appellate courts and people have tried to reinscree their way through things with Trump. And the courts of appeals are like, yeah, you can't just do that. And it sucks because you have all these shitty district courts, mucking up the works. And then they get bitch slapped by the court. And you have to get through all of it. So, Very interesting. Very interesting. Interesting stuff, you guys. So, that is a great breaking news. So, thank you so much for sending it to me, you guys. I appreciate that. Isn't Trump's actions as an executive outside of judicial review? No. The content lasagna. There's a lasagna that's content, or it's lasagna made out of content. I don't know. I still don't. You still haven't answered that question for me, and that's critical. That I'm like the black guy in Dirty Harry. I got to know. Let's see here. All right. All right, chat. Hold on here. Wow, that didn't work out as I thought it would. Why is this not working here? I don't know. Sometimes YouTube's way it works on things is not always the easiest to handle, and sometimes it gets frustrating. So, but regardless, are his actions outside of a judicial executive? No, they are not. He is not immune from review. Now, courts may have to give him a wide deference. Sure, doing a wide deference, that's one thing. But the way saying you can't review this at all, that becomes a Marbury versus Madison a little bit too. But the idea that Trump, he's completely outside of that scope. If your political questions, maybe, but this isn't a political question. This is his functioning as the commander-in-chief of the military. And that's a constitutional provision there. And I think they have the right to figure out, is this something, because remember, even if let's say it's a political question, people have the right to come into court and say, no, that's not true. That's not true. That's not a political question. You're allowed to come in and argue that. You're allowed to come in and make the arguments. It's not a political question. So remember, the court can at least say we're allowed to look at that first. And then if they say it is a political question, then we're done. Missouri battle flags, you let the balance of equities. Remember, the balance of equities, the fourth element and the third element, they merge together when you're dealing with the third and fourth become one thing when you're dealing with a government in the TRO. When a government's one of the parties on a TRO, it becomes a three-prong approach. But yes, that is typically traditionally when it's other parties involved, it's 4 prongs. You're very correct, Battle Flag. Ali says, never go to Vegas, Sean. Oh. You had a big, long pause? Where? Where the hell did I have a big, long pause? You guys said I stopped working. I was talking. Did it like cut out halfway through? Huh. Let me see here. Okay, 2.0 says fine for her. Isn't that some sort of stroke symptom? No. I just stopped talking mid-sentence. Okay. Well, I look like Max Headroom. Earlier you buffered for a second. You were just thinking. Well, I was probably catching up to seeing what somebody had said there. So, all right, guys. All right. So moving on from here, I guess we'll talk about. We'll kind of get to. We're gonna get to the things we have to get to here, chat, and it is the Rikiada saga. We do have some Nick Rikiada things to talk about. We did take an L, chat, in the crusade to get the body cam and get some definitive answers from the Rikiada question. We did take a big fat L, you know, not only just the Farms and Null and Matthew Harden, but people who truly love liberty and transparency. We all took a big fat L. The Constitution took a big fat L. The First Amendment took a big fat L. People keeping their government accountable took a big fat L. But for some people, that's okay now because now their ass is on the line. Funny how that works. It's like malleable principles. Principles should not be like Play-Doh. They should not. Principles should be like concrete. They dry and are firm. But anyways, because even Play-Doh when it dries becomes very flaky. So anyways, this was filed on the 16th. This is in order following the motion to intervene that was filed. And this was filed by Matthew Harden. He was seeking the right of asserting access to the things that were uploaded to the Minnesota digital evidence system. And those were the body cams that Nick and his attorney put up as part of their motion to suppress. Now, it is interesting how that works in Minnesota because here in Ohio, those would have been submitted and, those would have been exhibits and those would have been publicly searchable. And it's funny when you read through the FAQ of MNDES, they say, this is all going to be public. But apparently it's not when you can convince the judge. So what happened here? So the judge made some findings of fact. And here's the problem. The judge kind of made up his own findings of fact. So now we're to an abuse of discretion standard. So Wenzel fucked all of us. And we're not sure why. Maybe there's video of him getting pegged by Nick's mom or something. I don't really know. I don't know. But hey, they do what they do out there. They're all Scandinavian prudes. So on August 18th, Nick filed a pretrial memorandum saying they were contesting issues for the omnibus hearing as probable cause for the search warrant. They were referenced in the defendant's pre-hearing memorandum regarding the admissibility of April's statements to the police, which it turns out April had been Mirandized. So isn't that kind of funny how people lied? Oh, yeah. MN Records, hook it up. Yeah. Throw up some dubs. Let's go. So prior to the hearing, defense counsel uploaded a variety of exhibits to MNDES in preparation for the hearing. Including the exhibits was the footage from the 2 Warren body cameras. The hearing was held on August 21st, which Nick lost. At the hearing, defense counsel clarified that the search warrant and firearm seizure were the contested issues. The defense withdrew his third issue involving the statements by a co-defendant made on the body camera videos. The court discussed with defense counsel what the records were being offered. Defense counsel stated he was going to get rid of the first two, which is in reference to the sworn camera exhibits uploaded to MNDES. Court asked if there were any objections. The state noted an objection only to a separate video, later ruled as admissible by the court. The body camera videos were mistakenly marked as admitted. Well, were they really mistakenly, or is it the court now just covering its ass and trying to do something here? I'd say it's a second, but what do I know? After the hearing, the court did not consider the uploaded body camera footage in deciding the remaining omnibus issues, which, remember, Nick fucking lost. On April 22nd, Hardin filed a Minnesota Judicial Branch copy request form requesting access to the footage of the two cameras that were uploaded by defense counsel and marked as admitted. On May 1st, the court granted Judicial Branch copy request form, observing they were marked in MNDS as admitted, but restricted their viewing only to the courthouse by appointment. On May 29th, the state of Minnesota filed a motion to correct court records in the criminal file. The state moved the court to correct court records to properly indicate the cameras were never offered nor received as exhibits at the omnibus hearing. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Remember, those people that were out to get Nick came and saved his ass. Makes you wonder, but hey, we're coping here, chat. We're coping and seething. We are, technically. The court reviewed the transcripts and granted the state's request to correct the records. And this is after it already knew Hardin had been granted, permission to come look at it. Both parties agree their intent was not to offer the camera footage received, and the court did not rely on such footage. Okay, but it was made public. Now to turn around and seal it is bullshit. The record was amended to have the cameras not as accepted, so they remain designated as pre-hearing only. On May 30th and June 1st, Hardin filed a notice of motion and motion to intervene for the purpose of asserting right to access. Hardin seeks to intervene and considers briefing on whether the cameras are uploaded. Hardin filed supplemental memorandums in support of his motion to intervene and cited Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia et al. And guys, remember, he's the guy that got sent down to El Salvador. He's the sweet Maryland family man who now is facing a lot of federal charges. Remember, he's getting all the due process he can handle now. Versus Christy Noam et al. Out of the District Court of Maryland. And they pointed out that once things get made public, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You can't close the barn door after the horse is gone. So they say on June 6th, the defendant filed a responsive memorandum, and all facts are incorporated. So the order is Hardin's prior motion and filings for intervention for the sole purpose are allowed. Which is interesting because the judge really wanted to fuck over Hardin and everybody else. He could have said right here, nope, you're not allowed to intervene. Because at that point, if Hardin had got denied access to intervene, trying to appeal it or do anything with it, the appeals court would have been like, sorry, you're not allowed to intervene, tough luck. But he was allowed to intervene. So now the court, by doing this and answering all the facts in a retarded way, like, they're keeping Hardin in the fight. So I guess, great job. I guess the judge is much better than Nick and Frank White at being attorneys. Who knows? So when uploading the footage of the cameras, the status box was mistakenly checked to indicate they were admitted. The admitted status of these exhibits was inaccurate and required correction, and correction to the access allowed. Does it really, though? Therefore, Hardin's access is denied. Hey, look, we're joining the ranks of Nick Rikiada and Russell Greer. I told Matthew Hardin that. I said, how does it feel that you are now on the same level as Russell Greer? You have been denied. And Hardin is like, that hurts a little bit, but it does. So the court's order granting limited access was rescinded. A result in access is hereby denied. You're like, yeah, you know what? So Nick got his dub. And Nick, you're right. You got your dub, man. I mean, too bad you didn't get your dub and your fucking felony when it mattered. But hey, you got a dub. And hey, as Rashad Wallace says, the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while. So I guess there you go. It got sunny today. So there you go. So the memorandums of law, real quick. They talk about making limited a right here. They talk about the right to intervene. They say the party erroneously invokes Rule 24, the Minnesota Rules of Public or Civil Procedure, to assert rights. And they say the civil rule does not apply to criminal proceedings. Minnesota procedure is governed by the Minnesota Rules of Procedure, and those rules contain no express provision for third-party intervention for this purpose. The court is not aware that Minnesota courts have addressed whether a party may directly intervene in a criminal case to assert a right of access to records, as opposed to a separate civil filing. Well, see, here's the part. Here's the part of the issue. If it hasn't been decided, how is it erroneous? How is it erroneous? Because, in states that aren't retarded and under the federal criminal procedure, you know what happens when the criminal rules don't cover a section or a topic? If the criminal rules don't work, you immediately go to the civil rules. And that's how it works. Because if there's an issue and a topic that's not covered, you look to the civil rules. And from there, if that's not covered, you would look to the rules of superintendents. And if you can't find it there, I don't know what the hell's happening, but, a proper court system would address it that way. And they say, well, a normal non-party would be summarily denied. The court recognizes the importance of access when permitted. The court is also aware that several outside jurisdictions have recognized that third parties may intervene in criminal cases for limited purposes seeking records or proceedings, despite the absence of procedural rules adopted for that purpose. Those courts have reasoned that such limited interventions serve to vindicate the constitutional and common law rights of public access, except for here, apparently. Except for here. Say, despite the lack of directly applicable Minnesota statute authority, the court finds it retains discretion to allow limited interventions solely to determine access rights, provided that no disruption occurs to the underlying criminal process. Well, there's no disruption. This limited intervention, however, does not entitle the intervener to participate more broadly in the proceedings or to assert substantive claims unrelated to access. Well, Hardin didn't do that. And they talk about the right of access. MNDS is the newly created Minnesota statewide electronic system for exhibit handling. It was developed to facilitate evidence handling based on recent changes to court appearances, allowing for remote appearances. MNDES requires parties to upload and exchange proposed exhibits and facilitate remote and hybrid hearings by eliminating the need for in-person exhibit handling. Parties are required to upload potential exhibits before the hearing. The court and court staff are tasked with an additional administrative requirement to electronically check whether all proposed exhibits are pre-hearing, offered, and or admitted. Parties on air are unable to withdraw their own uploaded exhibits unless they request deletion from those in court administration tasked with that authority and special access. Well, why can't you delete yourself? They say that system has significantly improved procedural efficiency and remote access, blah, 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 blah. Traditionally, exhibits have always been offered orally in court by a party introducing physical copies, followed by physical acceptance or non-acceptance, after judicial ruling on objections. This clear delineation ensures well-preserved evidentiary records. The electronic system, however, permits digital pretrial designation of an exhibit status by the uploading party, which inadvertently creates some potential for ambiguity, especially when the same formal procedures and acceptance during busy court calendars are not followed. You mean like when Frank White says, I want to get rid of them? What does that mean? And you're not cleared staying on top of shit. Yeah. Oh, wow. Remember what Nick says? His lawyer sucks. And guess what shitty lawyers do? They fuck up. Under common law access rules, First Amendment principles, and the Minnesota Rules of Public Access to Records of the branch, records are admitted in evidence and used in court proceedings are presumed to be accessible to the public unless classified as confidential and sealed by court order. And they say, while the statutes control the classification of body camera worn data held by law enforcement, once that footage is admitted as an exhibit in a court hearing, it generally becomes a court record. At that point, judicial access rules apply. They say, however, when the party merely uploads an exhibit during preparation for a hearing, it doesn't automatically convert that exhibit into a publicly accessible judicial record. A proposed exhibit stays non-public until it's admitted during the hearing. The mere filing of a paper document with the court is insufficient to render that judicial document subject to the right of public access. Yeah, it's kind of hard to say that it's not, though. If you filed it with the court, it should be available because it's been filed. That party has presented it. And I disagree with that ruling here. And notice, they had to go to the Second Circuit. Not even in the Eighth they could find that. Instead, the item file must be relevant to the performance of judicial function and useful in the process in order for it to be designated a judicial document. And the Minnesota Supreme Court has held that private documents generated during discovery and are not filed with the court are not subject to public access. That's correct. But there's also a lot of Minnesota court cases where they talk about, there's all kinds of shit that gets done. Medical malpractice, capital murder cases, all kinds of shit's available in court. This principle supports a notion that exhibits not admitted into evidence do not become part of the public record. Nick wanted them to be. He was gunning for this and pining for this. So it wasn't like it was inadvertent. They intended for these to be brought in. Restraints placed on discovered but not yet admitted information are not a restriction on traditionally public source of information, which is not what this was. They intended to offer it. They offered it and wanted it to be known. And then they changed their mind when the issue got resolved. They say for exhibit to become a judicial record and therefore accessible, it must be formally admitted or used in proceedings. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because when I file something, I have to file exhibits with a motion. And guess what? You can see the fucking exhibits. Now, the court may not accept the exhibits, but the exhibits are attached to the documents. So this is a load of fucking horseshit. This is an absolute load of fucking horseshit by the Minnesota courts. But once again, I am coping and seething. My eyes can't believe what I'm reading. So they say in this matter, they were listed in the pre-hearing memorandum suggesting the initial intent to rely. However, at the hearing, they later withdrew the issue that referred the cameras. And while counsel may not have followed the typical formalities of exhibit offer and acceptance, he indicated he was getting rid of the cameras as not particularly relevant when asked about his exhibits. Even so, the cameras were mistakenly marked as admitted. Subsequent correspondence received and further review of the record clarified this was a mistake and the videos were not formally offered or admitted. They say besides the cameras in question were not formally offered or admitted, they remain outside the scope of access. An erroneous clerical marking does not transform an exhibit that was offered nor received into a judicial record accessible by the public. Yeah, I don't, Now, here's the part here, though. Hardin argues, and they talk about this. Hardin argues that temporary access requires the court to allow access. The Minnesota rules do not permit access if initial access was temporarily granted in error. Unlike the Abrego-Garcia case cited by Hardin, any inadvertent access was not previously openly distributed or copied. It was openly available, though. The video is only temporarily allowed to be viewed at the courthouse and not subject to copying, unlike the previously publicly marked available documents in the Abrego-Garcia case, which were requested to be sealed. Yeah, and I'm sure that this right here probably is not in compliance with Minnesota law, how they did it. So it probably should have been, but the court broke probably the law in multiple ways there. Oh. So, in summary, the camera footage is not public record, never offered in evidence, blah, 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 blah. Therefore, Hardin's request for access is respectfully denied. Stephen J. Wenzel, sweeper extraordinaire. You know, him and Grifty can try out for the Olympic curling trials that are coming up this fall in 2025. Get their broom on and see how it works. Remember, chat, get your sweeping on when you're working your curling rink. So that did happen, chat. We had to take the L there. We took the L. But there's some other stuff that happened. You're like, how did this go? So yesterday, actually, my apologies, yesterday, in another case involving Nick, another one known as Steve Quest versus Nicholas Robert Rikiada and Rikiada Law, also known as Montegraph. They had a telephone conference had been set for June 18th at 8:45 in the morning. So each attorney, and this was dated June 2nd, each served to Mark Randazza and Matthew Hardin. So you got to call in. You got to call in. Oh, well, we're gonna get to that because it's like, what happened? What happened? And then we saw on June 18th, something happened. We now see a filing from the courts, a notice. You're like, for June 18th, in the case of, once again, Montegraph versus Nick, they're set for a remote hearing July 14th at 10:45 a.m. It's going to be held via Zoom. So, if you guys, if you guys get into this, don't be a knob. Don't be a knob. Okay? Don't be a knob if you go. But you can find information here. So what happened? What happened at the hearing? Well, there's a bit of an issue there. There's a bit of an issue. Bit of an issue. Well, bit of an issue, chat. Bit of an issue. There's a motion filed by Monograph's attorney, Matthew Hardin. And what was it? A motion to strike and a motion for attorney's fees and cost. You're like, what happened? Well, it's in the case of Monograph versus Nick. So what do they do? So the motion says that they want to strike the notice of motion and expedited relief to dismiss pursuant to the anti-SLAPP law. And remember, chat, we talked about this. It's not applicable. It's not retroactive. They want attorney's fees and costs arising from the anti-SLAPP motion, as required by Minnesota statutes, and an amount to be established after the motion is adjudicated and stricken. They say they also want to do this. They want to recover cost because of the defendant's failure to appear at the scheduling conference on June 18th. Wow. It's like Nick and Mark Randazza are pulling they read from the same playbook. I don't show up at hearings. And it's funny because Mark Randazza, it was a phone hearing. It was a phone hearing. And where was Mark Randazza? I'm pretty sure Mark Randazza was still in Massachusetts helping the Karen Reed protesters, which that part doing God's work there. Defending the First Amendment, helping these people when they get arrested, going to federal court, having the federal court bitch slap Bev and the other judges to get them to stop abusing the buffer zones and all the other shit they pulled. But it was for a fucking phone pretrial. And nobody showed up. It's like, woof. Not even the attorney that's the pro hawk for Mark Randazza, the other attorney they hired. Nobody showed up. Nobody showed up. It's a phone call. That's all you had to do. Just show up on the phone. Good evening, Your Honor. Good morning, Your Honor. Poop, poop, poop. Easy enough. Easy peasy. Now, this is funny. The defense has undertaken delay to this case repeatedly. The most recent delay is the renewed anti-SLAPP motion, pursuant to the recently enacted Uniform Public Expression Protection Act. While this motion might ordinarily seem innocuous enough, the facts and the plain language of the statute defendants rely on reveal a much more nefarious effort on the part of the defense to engage in endless delay rather than vindicate any legal rights. Specifically, the new anti-SLAPP law is expressly not retroactive to a cause of action asserted before May 25th, 2024 in a civil action. Monty filed this, guys, if you can tell here, CV23. That means it was filed in 2023. One might therefore wonder why the defendant is raising the motion at all, which was indisputably filed on January 11, 2023. Indeed, even the amended complaint was filed on February 7th, 2023, which is well over a year prior to the effective date of the anti-SLAPP statute. And remember, chat, we talked about this last week when the thing, because I read through it because it was garbage. They failed to address the plain language in their motion, and they failed to explain What good faith basis is allowed for it to be filed? Remember, Randazza didn't demonstrate why you should be allowed to bring this motion in the first place. Because when you are outside of a timeline, or the thing doesn't apply to you, a rule doesn't apply, it says you're specifically prohibited, and you want to use it anyway, you bring it up, you say, Judge, look, we've got a great exception. Here's our exception. They never did that. So the purpose of this motion is to delay the action to sling additional mud at Steve Quest, which they did. The defense accuses of everything from pedophilia to being involved in the John Benet Ramsey murder, all while shielded by the absolute litigation privilege, which you do have. They say, although the motion will ultimately be denied on purely legal grounds, the defense will have effectively prevailed in derailing the case from an orderly adjudication anyway. It's like Russell Greer type shit when you think about it. Even when their motion is denied, this is because they've achieved an automatic and indefinite stay of the proceedings pending the resolution of the anti-SLAPP motion. The court's scheduling order had just been in effect for 2 weeks, has now been rendered entirely useless. And no further proceedings can continue till July 14th. Discovery, which the defendant served on May 13th, which would have been due for a response, was automatically stayed on the eve of the deadline because the defendants filed an improper motion on June 11th. This stay may very well extend for another year or more, because the defendants have also created themselves for an appeal as of right with yet another stay. And they say, despite the defendant's engagement does not engage with or make a compelling argument, there's no reason that it does not retroactively apply. But it gets worse. This working on Russell Greer has made Hardin, I think, very has really enhanced his writing. By consent, this court ordered the parties appear for a scheduling conference on June 18th. Naturally, the scheduling conference would have been the appropriate time to set a hearing on the defendant's specious anti-SLAPP motion, since all the proceedings were indefinitely stayed by virtue of the fact the anti-SLAPP had been filed. Indeed, as they pointed out, the court requires to set an expeditious hearing, but the defense did not bother to appear for the scheduling conference. Plaintiff appeared, but was informed by the court that plaintiff cannot set a hearing date on a defense motion without participation from the defense. Thus, the case remained stayed as the defense has taken no efforts to set a hearing on their own motion, which is the only motion this court has the authority to address. They say against this backdrop, they should get 3 forms of relief. First, strike the anti-SLAPP motion. Second, award plaintiff fees and costs because the motion is frivolous. And third, because they failed to show up for the hearing, plaintiff should be awarded fees and costs pursuant to that. Now Hardin just goes forward on this, and he lowers the fucking boom. He lowers the boom on Randazza and Nick. And real quick, Nick Starro. Good morning. How you doing, Nick? Guys, Nick Starro from Nick Starro's Trial Watch, friend of the show, friend of the channel. I'll be joining him tomorrow at 5 p.m. as he's celebrating Midsummer over in Sweden. Nick says for 50 Swedish krona. Thank you very much, Nick. I'm the only Nick on LawTube who can legally drink. Yes, that is very true, sir. Oh, okay. Benjamin Lewis says, can this get taken to the Supreme Court? Well, it'll go to the Court of Appeals in Minnesota, and then it'll go to the Minnesota Supreme Court. Will this get certiorari from the United States Supreme Court? Not a chance in hell. But it can get appealed, and it will get appealed. So the statute is clear. It does not affect the cause of action asserted before May 25th in a civil action. Now, they say one might wonder how they plan to get around it, but unfortunately, the defendant's briefing does not mention the language, much less analyze it and express a compelling argument in favor of disregarding that language or interpreting it in some unique fashion that might favor defendants. Remember, chat, when the rules don't apply, you have to be able to say, but look, Judge, I've got an explanation. And they don't offer one. And I said that when we were sitting there scrolling through all those pages of bullshit. They don't explain why the rules should cover them. And because of that, they're going to lose. Because of that, they're going to lose. Now, you talk about Minnesota's old statute being declared unconstitutional. And the new statute expressly does not apply to causes of action asserted prior to its passage. And they say neither the new anti-SLAPP nor the old anti-SLAPP apply. And by virtue of the Minnesota Court of Appeals decision in this case, no other state's anti-SLAPP laws apply either, and Minnesota law governs. Very true. So in short, they filed a motion citing to a statute that does not apply to their claims. Their motion, therefore, is futile and should be stricken. This court cannot apply the repealed version of an anti-SLAPP statute, nor can it apply the current version, which expressly does not apply to pre-2024 claims. The motion is facially futile as a matter of law. And because of that, they are entitled to attorney's fees. And it says, the court shall award costs, reasonable fees, and reasonable litigation expenses to the responding party if they prevail in the motion and the court finds the motion was frivolous or filed with the intent to delay the proceeding. Well, you're ready to scratch that checkbook, Nick. Moreover, the claims are frivolous because the defendants have ignored and failed to address the fashion of which they are entitled to relief under the statute. So, the true purpose was to foment delay. In this case, is already 2 years old and has already been to the Court of Appeals and back on one occasion. Yes, and I'm sure if they lose, they're going to go back again. So they should give Monty his fees and cost, but should not reduce the amount of fees and cost until, and by reducing them, reducing the writing, until it's been adjudicated. In the interim, fees and costs will continue to accrue. They say attorney's fees are mandatory, not discretionary, because the anti-SLAPP statute specifies the court shall award fees. It means mandatorily. So the motion is frivolous. That's right, he says it's full of shit! The frivolous nature is facially apparent insofar as the entire argument relies upon retroactive application of a statute by which its plain language is not retroactive. So there you go. Like, just literally, you can't do this. The anti-SLAPP motion is directly analogous to these cases. They cite Cole and Nerad. They say claims have been found to be frivolous when attorneys have disregarded plain language to file arbitrable claims in a court. And when attorneys disregard the plain language of applicable statute of limitations on a claim filed anyway. So yeah, that's how you get a frivolous claim, and you don't have a good faith argument when you do shit wrong. Say, the defendants have filed a motion anyway without acknowledging the relevant language or addressing it. Presumably, if they were aware of any argument to the effect which would allow them to do this, they would have explained the basis for a curious or novel interpretation of that statutory provision. But they didn't. Instead, they brazenly filed a motion which purports to apply claims raised in 2023, despite the clear statutory language to the contrary. So it should be declared to be unreasonable and frivolous, and was filed for the purposes of delay. They say we don't have an obligation to prove that it was filed for delay, but there's an impressive body of evidence. First, consider the timing. After extensive delays while the case was appealed the first time and stayed on the basis, while they argued Colorado law applied, discovery in this case reopened recently. On May 13th, plaintiff served his first request for production of documents. The response would have been due within 30 days on June 12th. But on June 11th, they filed an anti-SLAPP motion, which resulted in an automatic stay of discovery. The defendants did this without offering any basis of relief. And due to the non-retroactive language, they failed to schedule their motion for a hearing or appear at the scheduling conference. They say there's also the procedural history of the case. As the defendants themselves acknowledge, this is not their first anti-SLAPP rodeo. Instead, they previously argued the case should be based on Colorado's law, and in Quest v. Rekieta, the Court of Appeals affirmed that, nope, it's not. But rather than continue this ordinary course of litigation, they almost immediately filed a successive anti-SLAPP motion upon remand, this time arguing without any real explanation that the new law, which contains express statutory language prohibiting it, is somehow both retroactive and bars the claims from being adjudicated. And of course, they're taking shelter again. They say, third, the defendants have taken no action to schedule their own hearing. After imposing the stay, they failed to take any action which puts the case in limbo. And they say this is despite a scheduling hearing that was put on the docket with their consent. So Matthew Hardin wants attorney's fees and cost, which I don't know, man. It's going to be rough. Additionally, the court should award the plaintiff $240 as a result of the failure to appear to the scheduling conference. And Hardin does an entire discussion and breakdown of that. He does a whole declaration here. He prepares an affidavit, basically. He talks about the cases that not only well, this is great. And this is once again, chat. When you fail to appear in court cases, this gets used against you. Not only in criminal setting, but everywhere else. One of the defendants, Nick Rikieta, appears to have failed to appear in court on at least 5 other occasions in recent years, such that this is a reoccurring pattern. Specifically, the Kandiyohi County District Court dockets revealed that Nick failed to appear in a 2024 case, a 2024 case, a 2024 case, and a 2023 case. All these driving cases, chat, all these driving cases, Nick is just fucking himself over on. They say additionally, the online dockets reveal Mr. Rikieta failed to appear on behalf of a client in April's case. So there you go. Like, once again, this shit, like, it looks like you're playing fucking games. Nick didn't even show up to the hearing, which that'll happen sometimes. You know, the plaintiff and the defendant, who's the actual party, calls in and like, yeah, I'm here. I don't know where my attorney is. But Nick didn't even bother showing up. So he says, though, although it only lasted 15 minutes, I spent a total of 8/10 of the billable hours preparing for and attending the hearing, which, yeah, I mean, that's, 6 times 8 is 48. So that's 48 minutes of, 15 minutes and 30 minutes of getting ready. This is because I conducted research in the applicability of the statutory stay, which, that takes time. So that I'd be prepared to address what issues can and cannot be scheduled. And so I could address the impact the recent motion and the court's amended scheduling order. And he says, my hourly rate is $300 an hour, which that is a very fair rate for an attorney who's been practicing about 10 years. So that's a very fair rate. And then Hardin comes down here and he files an exhibit here about the request for documents that were sent out and how they sent those out. There's also an email that was sent to Randazza. And Randazza says, I was under the impression the hearing is off calendar due to the filing. This is a human error and certainly not intended to delay. I don't know. I will work with my local counsel to reschedule this and offer my apology to you and the court. Well, I don't know if anybody's going to buy that. We'll see. Although ultimately what's going to happen, the court's going to be like, all right, naughty, don't do it again. And really, and at the end of the day, that's how courts are going to treat it the first time through, especially with counsel. This is pro se. There'd be like a million second chances, but court's probably going to grant a second chance on that. They might smack Randazza with a $300, sanction for attorney's fees and costs. But for a guy like Randazza, scratch off that check and be good with it. So, although, yeah. But good job. We're already setting a good course on this one. There's also now, though, this got filed, and this is kind of this is going to be interesting here, too, because if I was Randazza, this is something I would address with the court, is Hardin wanted something addressed here, but notice what Hardin filed on the 17th of June. So the day before the hearing, a notice to remove judicial officer. And this was filed in the case of Matthew Hardin versus Eric Tolson in his official capacity as a sheriff in the Kandiyohi County. This is the private case that Hardin has filed, and it's 34CV25364. This is the case where Hardin himself is suing the sheriff to get the body cam stuff. And this is where he's requesting that the Honorable Stephen J. Wenzel be removed. And you remember, you get those removal rights under the civil rules and the criminal rules in Minnesota. You automatically get an automatic first one. And helping Matthew Harden is Oliver Bromke. There. Now, I can see Randazza trying to bring this up. Well, you tried to kick him off another case, so what the fuck? But I think Hard's going to point out, like, it doesn't fucking matter. It's not the right case. So. Oh. So, we'll see. But in the meantime, chat, TLDR, yes, we took a big fat L. But for now, we did. Maybe not forever. Maybe not forever. So. Okay. LCW Archive says, Nick Rikiada told me it was legal to duck a scheduling conference. Yes, Nick Rikiada told me I could pee on the judge's desk. Matty B says, what the TLDR? Well, that's a TLDR. And Farron Franch TV. Hey, Farron, hope you're doing well. Great job covering the trial, Sean. Well, thank you. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Farron. Hope you mend up all right. And make sure you're wearing a helmet so you don't get, like, run over by cars. That would be bad. That would be bad. Ratches, what if they already deleted the body cam? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you could sue them for damages, but can't undelete. Like, it's gone. Now, that puts Nick in a bit of a bind because if he starts trying to sue people for defamation, guess what? He's got copies of it. And now it's stuff within his control. So, as much as Nick likes to say he's gonna start suing people, it's like, do you really want to go down the road of discovery, Hassenpfeffer? Do you really want to go down that road? Because that opens you up worse than the Jamaican Bulls did, and they opened you up pretty good, I bet. So you got to be careful. Got to be careful what road you actually run down. But it's a very good question. So. Somebody make an AI body cam and just say it's for real. Just somebody wear a GoPro and walk through Port-au-Prince. We're like, yeah, it's probably close enough. So. All right, guys. Now moving on from there into another Minnesota issue. This thing that happened over the weekend, guys. Whoa, man. So, 2 Minnesota state lawmakers were targeted for assassination. One of them, the Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the Minnesota House and her husband were murdered. The other two, a state senator and his wife, were shot up. And man. Yeah, I know it sounds based. It sounds based a little bit, but what happened? Well, the police doing their thing. If this guy shows up on your Ring camera chat and like he's like, I'm a cop, let me in. And he looks like this, chat. Do not let him in. Do not let that vampire in your house. You know what you need to do at that point? You call 911 and you also go. And you just take your safety and you go. And you take the hammer and you go. And you get ready to fucking have to do work. But yeah. Yeah, this is off. I don't know if you'd shoot through the door at this point, but God almighty, if I looked through our ring and that was out there, I'd be like, I'm like, oh no. Then also part of me is thinking, oh my God, we're really going to be able to do this. I'm like, if only I could stream this to chat. I'm like, this will be dope footage to have. But yeah, it's time to get the tools out. Hold on, chat. There we go. Got to make sure it's actually ready for when it's needed, because we have a defensive posture here. Yeah. So say, well, I could have inverted a Sallyport video as well. Yeah. So something about PewDiePie. Like and subscribe. Yes, for PewDiePie. So what happened? So this guy showed up and killed these people. And it's weird because he's like a fucking, it's this guy here. His name's Vance Butler. He like claims to be some sort of soldier of fortune who's operated in the Congo. Like none of it makes a whole lot of sense. And he's a small business owner in Minnesota. And he got into a shootout with the cops at the one house. And like they were trading fire. And somehow he escaped and was on the run for multiple days in Minnesota. Like, I don't understand this. This guy glows really bad. But even then, he's not like, special activities division glowy. Like, it doesn't make sense because there's so much of this that's weird. Like, he has a house that's out, like, and here's the weird things. Like, he has a house out nowhere.
Taking a look at the home.
He has a house. He has this like really nice house
of what is believed to be the suspect in now the shooting deaths of state lawmaker Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark.
And that's what happened there. And then just real quick, this is Melissa Hortman. That's the Speaker of the House who got smoked. And then, but it's like weird for this guy. Because at the time they found him where he was living in a crack house, basically, with some cracked out people, like living with a bunch of weirdo crack addicts. That it doesn't work. It doesn't fucking work. And then they found in his car, he had like no kings on a bunch of shit, just because we had the No Kings March and all that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work here. Stuff does not make sense, chat. It doesn't make sense. I don't, and once again, it's this guy. It's this fucking guy. And you're like, wait, how does that work? How does this guy work? But yeah, they caught him. They found his car. Inside his car, they found like other stuff. But some of this doesn't make sense, like a page from his notebook. Like, if you're putting together intel and doing a hit list, like you organize this shit a little better. Like, target, information, birthday, where do I find them? Where do they live? Like, he's just like random things here. Like, these are various things, like Intellis, been verified, ownerly. This is all just the random shit you have to pay for here. This is, USsearch.com, People Finders, People Lookers, Spoke You. Like, all this shit is like the TruePeopleSearch.com. And then he says, TruthFinder.com, 3 days free, Whitepages. Like, why are you putting the advertisements down on the things? Like, oh my God, like you're trying to put together a hit list and a dossier. Like I get it. Like, no, if you're taking notes and you're going to start smoking people, I get taking notes. That's not a problem for me if you're going to start taking notes as you start killing people. Like, I'm not saying you should go kill people, but if you're going to do your work, you got to work your plan. You plan your work and work your plan. This is not a plan. And why would you include like your preamble and basic stuff in your dossier of like, I'm doing work? Maddie says looks around. Well, I'm just saying there. I'm just saying there. Like you gotta be, well, you burn the notebooks. Yeah, if I know I'm gonna get caught, I don't really give a shit. But like, this is not even like, real dossier information or attack information. Do your home, like you have to do your homework. You've got to do your homework. You can't just like, this is not 8 Mile. You don't go freestyling shit. You don't get the freestyle stuff. You can be an amateur all you want, but don't be an amateur. Don't be fucking amateur hour. And then it just gets even weirder because his name, like the people, like where he lives, his roommate, where he was staying. You know, this is like the guy he's hanging out with. No, that's not me, chat. But like,
shortly. So I just want to let you know that I love you guys both, and I wish it hadn't gone this way. I don't want to say anything more and implicate you in any way, because you guys don't know anything about this. But I love you guys, and I'm sorry for all the trouble this has caused. He was a loving, caring guy, loved his family.
and he hung out at the crack house with like the busted windows and the trim and everything falling apart. This does not look like where you're going out on a hit, man. Yeah, Luigi had his shit down. I mean, if you're gonna run an op, run a fucking op. He probably ran an op with these guys. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna do your op, do your op. This was amateur hour.
He loved his friends and loved God, and I don't know why he did what he did. It's not fans. No one will believe this. No one that grew up. He had lots of friends, trust me. I wish I could have been there to stop him.
I have the feeling if he's dressed up in a police uniform and a rubber mask, you're not stopping him from killing anybody, buddy.
Dead shortly.
And this is yeah, you're just like, really? This fucking guy. Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of fucking sense. This shit glows. It glows, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. How does it work? There are some pictures of his car when they found his abandoned car. He's got an AK. It looks like he's got 2 AKs. Looks like he's got 3 AKs. Oh, look, a Draco. Shout out to Fudbusters. Get yourself a Draco. And look, another Draco. Him and Fudbusters, they could be friends. All the AK guys are going to be like, based. But I do like how he's just got a Tupperware bin full of rifles just shoved in the car. Like, just ready to start just throwing down at a moment's notice. Oh. Yeah, well, look, all the stuff you need in one spot, all in plain view. Are these AK-74s, Gandalf is saying? No, because these are ribbed. Look at the way these magazines are and the curvature of them. Those are 7.62 by 30. Well, number one, they don't do AK-74 pistols like that. I don't think anybody does. You have to make your own. These are all AK, like 7.62 AK magazines. So, and you could tell because they're not. AK-74 magazines are flat-sided. And generally, they're going to be plum or Bakelite. You won't see steel AK-74 mags. Like, if you rated, like, original productions, probably. Like, if you got a hold of one of those, AK people would suck your dick for one. But generally speaking, no, these are the 30 cal AK magazines. So, Spet says 545 prices Lamau. Yeah, that's the problem, too. He's not going to go kill people with a 545. He's like, I can't afford to kill him with this. And the other thing is, too, a 545, an AK mag that's 30 cal is going to be curved. One that's not, and it's a 545 mag, is going to be a little straighter. It's not going to be as straight as like a 556 magazine, but yes, it will be straighter. Shinobu says AK guys suck dick. We know. Yes. Plum Bakelite is better than steel. Well, there's plum, and plum ones are plastic, but Bakelite's that orange plastic. So, no, that's not an East German ammo pouch. That's some China-made garbage. The East German stuff would have the raindrop pattern on it. So, yeah, he used a Beretta 92. What? Wow. I guess I'm watching that tomorrow. Holy shit, how did he do that? Good for Uncle. That's a fucking get. Patriot Pete says, did I see that the killer voted for Trump? I mean, he's got to vote for somebody. So, I mean, oh well. He could have voted for the other side too and been a lunatic too. So who knows? But wow. I'm slipping. Kurt and Runkle are sniping all the interviews. Yeah, I gotta. That's awesome, guys. So Runkle did good there. To left of the pick. Oh, yeah, sorry. Duh. Yes. That is East German. Yes, that is East German pattern because it's got the raindrops on it. Duh. So 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time. So that's like 7:30 p.m. So you can get Hank, I believe in you. I'll pass. I'll pass on that. Oh. Yeah, that's the other thing. Hey, this guy wipes his ass with Charmin. Why haven't the Bears disavowed him yet? I'm like, okay, yeah. Killing people is bad. Do not kill people, chat. Don't kill people over political differences. What this guy did was wrong as much as we want to joke about it being based. So there you go. Is what it is there. All right. All right. Oh. So in the meantime, though, he has been Vance Butler has been filed. He's facing federal charges. He's got a criminal complaint. And we're just going to go this real quick. It's super fast here. He's stalking Melissa Hortman using interstate facilities to do so. So just like Luigi, stalking of John Hoffman, use of interstate facilities to do so. Murder through the use of a firearm. You know, once again, that's how they're getting him there, just like Luigi. Murdering the husband through the use of a firearm. Runkle's gonna be nervous. I doubt it. Runkle's been pretty good. That'll be a good fucking interview. You guys don't get it. It's gonna be phenomenal. So Runkle did a great job. Runkle will be fine, guys. They shooting of Melissa. Yeah, it's once again, it's all the stuff you saw with Luigi. And then you saw John and Yvette Hoffman. So there's the Hortmans and then the Hoffmans, the firearms offenses. The Hoffmans did not die. They survived. The Hortmans died. So, and they go through all of that. So he's facing a couple different federal felonies. They might charge him with more, but for right now, that's what he's got. So, yeah, just protect your neck, guys, and don't hang out with crackheads when you're going to do your work. Remember, plan your work and work your plan if you're going to do this stuff. Okay. So let me see here. We're almost done, chat. We're getting there. Real quick, Styx Hexenhammer. If you guys don't remember, this is Styx Hexenhammer. You know, I'm embarrassed because I used to fucking listen to him back in the day. Back in the days of Sargon and Andy Raceworski. Like, this was the guy I listened to. I was like, every once in a while, base libertarian shit. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. So cringe now. I'm like, I'm embarrassed to listen to him. He had been charged with domestic battery in the state of Louisiana. So he had trial on the 18th. He had a bench trial. This is all we have right now. So the judge's verdict for the defendant, the domestic abuse battery, he was found guilty. The defendant signed a protective order. The defendant was appear for Zoom for sentencing. Sentencing is set for July 15th. So there you go. Yes. Yes. He calls himself a vampire. Yeah. Oh God, this is so bad. This is so bad. And it's so cringe because it's like I used to listen to this guy, but he gave a statement that he put out there. And it's very short, but we'll see it here.
Out in front of it, yes, I was found guilty of battery just earlier in the New Orleans Parish Courthouse. And I disagree with some of the evidence that was allowed at trial. Let's just put it that way. Thankfully, now that the case is over, I'm allowed to actually explain my side of the story.
If you want to appeal it, do not explain, because this could be used against you at some point. So no, until your case is all the way over and you don't plan to appeal, shut the fuck up, chat. Shut up.
Before somebody else is allowed to explain theirs. I'm sure that there will be 1,000 rumors swirling, and the people that don't like me, they'll be talking all sorts of shit about me. First and foremost, this does not involve my wife. It does not involve beating anyone. I did not punch anyone. I did not draw a gun on anyone. I did not hit anyone with a baseball bat or any of these things. What happened is this. I was inebriated in a hotel room with my ex-girlfriend, and we got into a bit of a squabble because she was texting with another dude.
Why were you in a hotel room with your ex-girlfriend if you have a wife?
And I believed that she was cheating on me, or at least, at least digitally. And she handed the phone to me, and what I saw was, questionable in nature. I later found out this is ex post facto, so it's not evidence pertinent to this case. I later found out she did send him nudes. I'm not going to name her, by the way, because that's not necessary or proper or potentially even legal. Anyway, I tossed the phone back onto the bed, but because I was inebriated, it accidentally hit her in the side. Now, I've been found guilty of battery. Under Louisiana statute, you should be able to show intent in order for that charge to stick. Of course, unfortunately, I was found guilty anyway.
Other questions I have. If she's your ex, why do you care who she's sending nudes to? She's not your girlfriend anymore. And then also, yes, I tossed my phone at her. Well, how hard? Did you toss it like you were throwing a fucking fastball? Did you toss it like you were throwing a fastball? I mean, I don't think you just went solely like, oof. I'm sure you're like, ah! Let's not lie. You were hurling that like Zeus hurls a thunderbolt.
Probably because I have a penis, honestly. I did not intend to harm my ex.
Okay, that came out. Perfect timing, restarting it.
I did not materially threaten her, despite the fact that I had a Glock 17 on my fucking hip. That never happened. I did not beat anyone.
I'm sure you were yelling and screaming at her. And here's the thing, chat. If you've had a couple of road pops and you're yelling and screaming at somebody and you got iron strapped on your hip, a lot of people could probably reasonably infer, oh my God, you're crazy.
I did not brandish a weapon. I did not do anything like that. So I'm just getting out ahead and saying, I am not a violent individual. I am not an insane individual. Well, I may be insane, but not, in the criminal sense, and so forth. So I just wanted to make that clear before all of the rumors begin circulating. Yeah, which I'm sure that they will. Oh, Kino Casino's going to have a fucking field day with this once they read OPSEC. Go have at it. It's all good. So just to be clear about the actual facts of the case, I should not have been found guilty under Louisiana state statute, but I chose not to testify, and I believe that was probably a bad decision because I could have explained all this before the court in literally less than 4 minutes.
Oh, I'm totally sure you were going to talk your way out of this shit, Styx. I totally think you were going to talk your way out of it. I totally do. I totally think you were going to figure your way out of this one. Yeah. Did he choke slam anybody? I don't know. He choke slammed the phone onto the bed. Ron, how you doing, Ron? Over on Twitter is saying homie needs to crawl to the closet and just come to terms with his truth. Oh, with Styx, you have no idea. You have no idea, man. He definitely does, but that ain't happening anytime soon. Real quick, Nick Kreuzer for $5 says, "Oh no, Muriel." And then Egypt Raptors. Gabe Newell's looking rough these days. Yes, he is. Oh, and Rivka is saying the Jade Gamer. Thank you for $2. Thank you for being here. Saying probably not an ex at the time, probably the pre-wife. I don't. He's married. So why is he hanging out with his ex-girlfriend? I'm pretty sure he's married. And why is he hanging out with his ex-girlfriend in a hotel room in Louisiana? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. So.
Whoops. Oh, well, it doesn't really matter. Since my sentencing is via Zoom call, I'm assuming I'm probably getting probation. Anyways, I wish the
He's split from his wife now. Well, at the time at the time though, he had a wife. That's the thing. I know this isn't right now. This is from last year, but at the time he had a wife. I thought. I don't know. He's fucking weird.
No, do your own thing. Leave me alone. Basically, that's basically all I can say. And dudes out there, please be careful about who you date. Just saying. That's about all. Peace out.
Well, that's actually true. Be careful about who you are having relations with. Don't stick your dick in crazy. Do not stick your dick in crazy. That can lead to a lot of problems. So do not do it. Do not do it. Be very careful. I highly recommend that course of action. So be very careful about what you do. So there you go, Styx. Styx with a felted. Very felted, chat. Very felted. He never explained why. Oh, I agree. He didn't explain why. Isn't that kind of funny? You didn't tell us what happened, Styx. Why didn't you? What happened? What happened, Styx? Like, I could have explained it. The floor was yours, Senator. The floor was yours. And you're just like, okay. So, yeah, well. Oh, well. Oh, well. Oh. Very weird. Very weird, chat. Very, very, very. Well, I mean, it Styx, so it's very weird anyway, but. You know. So. Okay. Let me see here in chat. Hold on. Trying to see where we are at here. Okay, guys, moving on. We got 2 stories left. This one's kind of interesting. It's just kind of an update on stuff we've been following. So this is involving Matthew Perry and what happened to him. Why is this not? There we go. So this is involving Matthew Perry. You guys remember him? He is from Chandler on Friends. Drowned in his hot tub from a ketamine, slipped in the K-hole and died. Well, there was investigations into how he's getting ketamine and the doctors involved. Well, one of the doctors involved in this has agreed to plead guilty to 4 counts of distributing ketamine. So he was getting illegally. Remember, guys, we covered this before with the other doctors. They were just like basically writing scripts for ketamine and just handing it out. He had one of his personal assistant was his drug gopher who would get him tons and tons of ketamine at a time. And yeah, he had ketamine and drowned. He was found floating down in his hot tub. Now, the doctors who did this, another doctor's already pled out, could face up to 40 years in prison. He's the 4th guy who would have pled guilty. His alleged drug dealer is going to go to trial later this year. He's probably going to get fucked. So, but along in the plea agreement, he worked with another doctor and sold 25 milliliter vials of ketamine. Plus, ketamine lozenges and syringes to Matthew Perry's personal assistant. And they pointed out that they were making money off Matthew Perry. Matthew Perry paid shitloads. And in his text messages that they caught, remember, chat, they will read your text. How much will this moron pay? So it's just a little bit of an interest in a little interesting a little bit of an interesting story there, just so you guys could see what's happening. Now, that's a lot of fucking ketamine. Yeah, he K-holed on the pool. Yeah. It's sad, but it's just, we had covered this as it was going on, and I think it's just interesting to keep track of it. Brad says, how much more will this moron pay? Yes. Very funny. And last thing tonight, chat. This is interesting. These guys in California stole $100 million worth of gold, diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and luxury watches from an armored truck. This is some stuff out of heat. Like, this is crazy. $100 million jewelry heist. Like, I'm like, wow, these guys went golf claps, gentlemen, for what you did. You know, this is very based. And robbing an armored truck, that's not easy. Getting away from an armored truck robbery. You know, if you're going to go, these guys went big. So, 7 guys have been charged with what's the largest heist in U.S. history. I wonder if Larry Lawton's commented on this, because he's a jewel thief. And he stole a lot of stuff, but he was a jewelry thief, and he'd steal from like jewelry stores and stuff like this. I wonder if Larry Lawton's like, damn, those guys went hard. So back in July 2022, they scouted out an armored truck leaving an international jewelry show full of everything. And that's a problem. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. Basket. That's how you get caught. So they trailed the truck for about 300 miles, eventually following it north of LA. While it was stopped, they stole 24 bags from the truck, getting $100 million. They say following the days of the theft, several of them deactivated their phones they were using. That makes it obvious too, you guys. All 7 defendants were indicted last Wednesday. They've been charged with counts of conspiracy. 5 of them also face conspiracy to interfere with commerce with robbery and interference with commerce with robbery. 2 of the 7 have already been arrested. A third suspect's currently serving a prison sentence in Arizona. Some of the jewelry was recovered. And they say some of these guys were involved in the theft of about $240,000 worth of Samsung electronics that were stolen. And even, in stealing stuff, hijacking shipments. That is a thing that happens. And it gets so bad that there's an entire semi truck recently got stolen. And it's like $1 million worth of switches. And a truck going to a GameStop distribution. Guys broke into a semi truck and stole like 2,800 Nintendo Switch 2s. Man, they really didn't want Darkside Phil to get one. I guess. But yeah, I just, this stuff is getting crazy out there, you guys. $100 million. And these guys did get indicted, and it's in the Central District of California. Remember, chat, Los Angeles is in the Central District of California. There's the Eastern and Bakersfield. The Southern is San Diego, and the Northern is San Francisco and Sacramento. So they got a couple of different people. They were named here. Oof, that's not right. Carlos, this guy Cercado, Padilla Resto, Pablo Raul Lugo. I don't know how to pronounce that. Victor Hugo Valencia Solozano. Yeah, I'm sure these guys have English heritage. Jorge Enrique Alban, Yasin Neleon, Priscilla Flores, Eduardo Macias Ibarra. Anyways, these guys, yeah, full buddy. Just stealing $100 million. $100 million of shit. I don't know how you fence $100 million worth of stuff. You're acting as lookouts. You'd find out where the truck drivers are patronizing while their trucks are unattended. They would steal from interstate and foreign shipments by threat of force. they were returned to LA and divide up the stuff and fence it for profit. And fencing means selling stolen items, chat. I just don't know how the fuck you do this. They robbed Apple AirTags. You're stealing the AirTags? Can't those be tracked? Can't those be tracked? How does that work? How does that work? How does that work? I don't know how that works. Because you can't really activate them. You know, and they stop the driver and said, "Don't move, I will fuck you up," while holding a small knife in his hand. Which I'm surprised these guys must be some real hoods. They don't have guns and stuff. So they stole $50,000 worth of AirTags. They steal all kinds of shit. They stole a bunch of electronics, you know, just a lot of hijackings. I just don't know how you do $100 million. I just don't know how you do $100 million. Like, where do you fence $100 million? I don't know. I don't know where you would fence $100 million. Where the shit. Like, some of that's going to be so hot on the street. You know, like if it's watches and things like that, those are all serialized. They're tracked. I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works. Oh, real quick, over on Rumble, Wild Saffron says, good coverage, Sean. Well, thank you. Mofo says, hail faggots. Hunch Dirty River says, bigger question, why is the breaker box on the ground? That picture of the house, I'm assuming they're working on it. They were probably renovating. So yeah, I don't know, guys. Like, I don't know where you fence $100 million of shit. J-Rock says the Jews. Well, you fence it $20 at a time on the corner. Well, no, you're not going to get shit for that then. I don't know where you. So. Oh, they're Chilean burglar tourist. Yeah. Oh, God. How much worth the Switchies? Were they all from Wish? No, they were Nintendo Switches. That's like $1.5 million they stole. So, yeah, even everything gets stolen now, these shipments. You could fence a lot of things like dog food you can sell. Pretty cheap. So, yeah, I don't know where you offload $100 million of jewelry. Seller's saying you sell it back for 50 cents on the dollar. Yeah, you're thinking of Heat, where they stole the guy's bearer bonds. Yeah, and Robert De Niro's like, I'll sell your bearer bonds back 50 cents on the dollar. And you get to file your insurance claim, so now you get double money. I don't know about that, because you remember how Heat turned out. But I don't, the people missing this, like, it's not bearer bonds. These aren't illicit gains, like illicitly gotten material. So they will file an insurance claim and will go to the police. So you wouldn't be able to sell it back 50 cents on the dollar. Kia Pat is going to a swap meet. Yeah, but you're not fencing like a Philly Patek swap meet. Like, oh. Like, you're not, like, I'm not getting rid of those. I'm not getting rid of Rolex Submariners at the swap meet. Like, you it's a stolen lawnmower is what you get at the swap meet. Yes. Yeah, if it's jewelry, I get it. You break it down, you bust out the diamonds, you sell the diamonds, you take out all the gemstones, you sell those separately. If there's gold, you smash it down and sell and melt down gold. But like otherwise, like there's stuff like I said, a Philippe Patek. You can't, like, you got to sell that as is, or Tag Heuers or Hublots. Like, you can't just, like, fucking, you can't sell those as parts kits. So, and just like that, all those switches were bricked by Mario's heavy gloved hand. Well, that too, those are going to be. Nick Croydon says, he was a movie, Sean. It's like, I don't know. If you stole $100 million of shit from me, I'd hire somebody to kill you too. So, 12th Monkey says that guy should have taken the deal. Well, yes, he should have. Van Zandt should have taken the deal. The cartels run more than drugs. They do ops on our side of the border, and the state looks away. Yeah, but I don't. These guys. This doesn't. A cartel operation would be a little more smooth. They'd be very good at it. This doesn't sound like cartel activity. Dubai is a hotspot for selling stolen gold and jewelry. Yes, you have to get to Dubai with all that shit. So, yes, if you could get to, yes, buying and selling guns in the Khyber Pass sounds great. You have to get to the Khyber Pass to sell your stuff. So, Facebook Marketplace. Oh, no, chat. No. So, did I see Runkle's going to have Alessi and Yannetti on tomorrow night? I did. That looks so cool. You know, I'm gonna have to ask him how he did it, because if he just shot a shot, that's. But no, that's awesome fucking news. You know, Runkle is scoring these big interviews. Kurt had like Vinnie Politan and Turtle Boy on, like, good stuff. Good fucking stuff out there, chat. I like seeing people do well. It's great. It's great to see people you know and people you like kicking ass. Yes, Darcy is right. Insurance is the reason these guys are found. Yes. And this is actually, if you guys have ever watched the Thomas Crown Affair, the Steve McQueen version or the Pierce Brosnan version, insurance investigators are highly skilled and they help solve these crimes. That way they don't have to pay because they can recover the items. Yes, Darcy's 100% right. Insurance is very much involved. When am I going to get Anna Kasparian on? Did you shoot your shot? I have shot a shot. Like what I did shoot a shot out yesterday. I'm hoping I can get something for it. So, make $1 million. Kind of well wishes. Yeah. Darcy says, I have more respect for you, and I interviewed Turtle Boy with the charges pending. Yeah, but I think Turtle Boy, when Kurt was on, was just talking about the Karen Reed case. But yeah, I'd love to talk to Turtle Boy once it's over. Let's see here. What are you guys saying? Thomas Fitzpatrick says, I like to see my friends do well. That way I know for sure that I'm dragging them down with me. Oh, no. Dubai has porta potty parties. Oh. Rich people from the UAE don't go through TSA or customs on their private jets, Sean. You're subject to customs searches, though. You still got to be careful, man. It's. My point is, moving $100 million worth of items is not easy. Yes, if it's smaller things, it's easier to hide and be less observable. Would I rather move $100 million of jewelry than $100 million worth of Ferraris? 100%. It's going to be easier, but it's still a mass exposure issue. You know, would it be easier to move $100 million of Bitcoin? Yeah. Even easier. Is it still risky to move it? Yep. That's why you have friends with diplomatic immunity. Well, that too. Oh. Egregious Darky is saying a crime like that needs like 10% in hand to make it work. You need everything set up before you even pull up on the truck or you're not getting paid. Yeah. And that's why these guys just have like knives. Like I was like, when I read the indictment and shit, I was expecting like Out of Heat, where like they hit the truck and they have a tow truck and they like breaching charge on the back of the door and they blow it open and everybody's got ski masks on and they got like automatic rifles and shit. Like they got radio scanners and they got like, they throw out stop sticks to defeat the police department and everything. No, it's just a bunch of fucking like Mexican guys with knives. And you're like, that's it? That's it? I was so disappointed when I read this earlier today. I was like, what the fuck? Was so disappointed, chat. I expected something cool. Okay. Just put the cocaine in the baby oil. Find a way. Yes. It's a lot of jewelry to put up someone's ass. Well, it's like in Pulp Fiction, shoving that watch up your ass. That's a lot of watches to shove up your ass. You guys wonder where Clyde is? Hold on, I'll see if he'll come in. Hey, Clyde. Come here, Bubba. Clyde. He'll be here any second now. Clyde. Might be outside taking a shit or something. I don't know. Clyde. Oh, here he goes. Here, click clacks. Hi, Bubba. Come here, Clyde. Come on. He just poked his head around the corner. He's like, I'm going back to bed, fat man. Yeah, he's a little tired. I think he's still out of it. Monday night, you guys, if you guys weren't on locals with us, Clyde, we have a fence in our yard. And then to keep Lainey in because we were worried she could run through the slats, we have like snow fence on the inside of it, white snow fence that kind of matches everything so she can't get out. We're pretty sure a skunk came up to the fence and Clyde was barking at it or something and it sprayed at Clyde and it missed. But for some reason, Clyde decided to roll around in the skunk spray and he came in the house on Monday night reeking of skunk. So, no, I guess Clyde is here, but I don't know where he was. But sorry, no Clyde tonight, chat. No Clyde tonight. Would it be okay if I came to your place and pet your roses or perennials? Pet my flowers? You mean like plant flowers? Lol, dog maxing. Yeah, you fenced in Clyde and got him back. No, well, we already had a fence, so. We love Clyde. Clyde is the best boy. Clyde is the best of boys. Kurt and Runkle can't score a Clyde interview. You're goddamn right they can't. You know, you say what you want about Potter and Zora, but, you know, Clyde is Clyde. Potter ain't no Clyde. Dark Lotus says, I'm happy to see Chief Wahoo smiling in chat in the stream. Go Tribe. Yeah, although sadly they're probably not going to go anywhere this year, but oh well. It's almost 11, and there's still no Clyde. Does Clyde eat tomatoes? I think he would. I think he would. I don't know. I've never just chopped up a tomato and see if he would eat it. I mean, if I'm sitting there eating stuff, he'll eat whatever I'm eating because he's like, oh, if the fat man's eating it, it must be good. But I don't know if he would just eat it on his own. How do we get rid of the smell? We don't use tomato juice. What you do is, and we learned this with Baxter, the bigger dog, because he was getting skunked a lot. And for some reason, there's a shitload of skunks in this area. It's weird. You take Dawn, baking soda, and hydrogen peroxide, and obviously some water, and you mix it up and you make a bit of a paste, and you kind of scrub it on and, you know, let it sit for a little bit and then wash them off. And it actually does a really good job killing the smell. Does a very good job killing the smell. And yeah, that's what we use on him. We gave him a good bath with it, and he's so little, you could put him in the sink. It was actually very nice. When we had Baxter, the big dog, if you guys go back, you could see in the pictures on Locals at potentiallycriminal.locals.com. And the pictures are free. But Baxter was, you know, a 90-pound German Shepherd pit bull mix. We had to sit out on the patio and, like, underneath the pergola, sit there and hose him down and scrub him down, and took forever. Clyde's so small, we got it done in like 15, 20 minutes. So, also, chat, we're going to be going over to Locals and use the promo code SUMMERTIME 2025 and join us over on Locals tonight because we are doing the after show, and that is for members only. So you need to be a supporter. If you're a supporter, you get access to that show. We're going to have some fun tonight, chat. We're going to have some fun tonight. Tomatoes are a no-no? Really? I didn't know that. I know grapes are bad. Darcy says, am I going to go over to Fat Joe's lawsuit? I saw that just dropped. At some point I will. Grapes are really bad for dogs. I knew that. We have a pergola. Well, it's like a covered thing that we can sit under. It's nice and big. Wait, who are you guys talking about? Baxter was mistaken for a black man and turned into pepperoni. Well, yeah. Hold on here. Wait, who covered Knife Party by the Deftones? Because that's a good song. Deftones are good. Isn't it weird to go back to normal streaming programming? Yeah, it is in a way, but it's also nice because we can go back to like talking about lawsuits, talking about court cases. It's nice that we have variety again. There's also another trial chat though that is coming that just happened while we were away. Stuck on this. There's Christopher Schur, the cop in Michigan, who was accused of murdering Patrick Loyola. Then there's also a guy up in Milwaukee. He murdered a girl on a Tinder date and chopped her up and threw her in Lake Michigan. What's his name? Something Maxwell. We're gonna watch that one because apparently that one's pretty gnarly from what I understand. So we're gonna do that. Karen's finally free, and so are we. Yes. The retrial for that cop's in December. I didn't think they were gonna do. I thought he wasn't getting done there. Smoking Scam is a roadie for the Deftones. Cool. Yeah. So your trial's been moved to August to December? Oh, okay. Well, hey, once again, I mean, well, gives you more time to prepare. Good luck. Maxwell Anderson. There we go. That's the name. I feel weird. I'm pointing at it here on my thing, and I'm not like, that's it right there. That's it right there. Boop. Right there. Am I doing Hauk? I don't know about that one, Afton. If you could send me some information, we might cover that. But I don't know who that is. Who is that? So. All right, chat. Well, we're all done. I think we're all caught up here. I think I've got everything done. Thank you guys again for everybody being here. Wow, we still got like 500 some. We had like almost 1,000 earlier total. Thank you guys all for being here. I will say, Tim the Tool says, need answers on the hair clip. What's the hair clip? I don't know what you don't know what you're referring to. Luke says, you doing the cop I sent you? Moved, got late August. We'll definitely do him. So we'll definitely do him. The 5-star, yes, 5-star days, chat. Now, I will say, I really do appreciate you guys. Thank you for sticking through the Karen Reed trial. I know at times it was a bit of a slog, but, you know, justice was done and the heavens didn't have to fall. And I do appreciate it, guys. You guys have shown big fucking support. I appreciated all of that. I appreciate all of that and all your help with all of that. So thank you guys for your support, especially this past, 36 days. I mean, basically the past month and a half, really, almost 2 months. Thank you for all your support. Fucking crazy. I mean that in a good way. I truly appreciate it. And I know, I truly appreciate all you guys going forward. Whatever you guys do, I really appreciate. Like I said, you're here. I appreciate that alone. Looking forward to seeing the peeling flesh. Let's see here. Will Koberger get delayed? I don't think so. And speaking of that, because Karen Reed is over, I got to reach out to Kirsha. We can get back to covering some of the Koberger stuff when we get a chance. We're going to be busy as fuck, man. We got a busy summer, chat. Karen Reed was only the beginning of it. We need more popcorn streams. Well, we need more good content. That just happens. When a popcorn stream happens, it's got to be organic. You can't force it. So, okay. So, with that said, chat, we are all done. Tomorrow, Laid Back Law. Also tomorrow, Nick Starro, 5. And then Runkle of the Bailey with David Yannetti and Bob Alessi, from what I understand. And if you guys have lied to me right now, and I'm saying all this, and I'm fluffing up Runkle, and it's actually not true, I'm going to feel like the biggest dumb fuck. Well, bigger than normal. Bigger than normal. Oh, okay. So it is 100% true. Okay. He's going to be interviewing Alessi and Yannetti. He actually is doing it. So it's for reals. Going to be 7:30 Eastern, 5:30 Mountain Standard Time. Remember, Runkle's in the Mountain Standard Time. So, yeah. Now, guys, like, that's something I'm going to watch. I don't know about you, but I am definitely going to watch that. That's so fucking cool. So, yeah, 7:30 Eastern, 5:30 Mountain Time. The interview is going to be very good. It is going to be very good. And guys, yeah, the Kieran Reed thing overall is done, but like Turtle Boy, I'm still rooting for him. I hope that goes well. That's still going to get covered. That's very important still. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff we're going to be dealing with here. So, stream snipe it? No, I will not stream snipe that. Runkle deserves every single fucking view he can get. That is not something I'll stream snipe. I would not take that away from him. So, is Runkle on avocado time? Yes. Is that what you guys call it? Made up time there? So, anyway, regardless of that, chat, we are all done. We're heading over to Locals once again, potentiallycriminal.locals.com. Use the promo code and join us. And remember, until next time, chat, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Except that guy in Minnesota is probably guilty. But Kieran Reed, definitely not guilty. Definitely not guilty. I mean, the DUI, but we've all been there. A lot of people got DUIs. That's no big deal. But the rest of it, definitely not guilty, chat. Definitely not guilty. So there we go. You guys enjoy yourselves and take care. I will see you guys.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy Rikiada yelled at? Why, yes it was.